Chapter 954. Qin Hao frowned. Through his mind, he felt the huge light screen above his head. He thought, what a high-end operation! It seemed that the guy ranked on the Imperial Martial ranking list was not a simple character. Ignoring the shocked warriors in the arena, Qin Hao descended and followed Su Su's aura to the gambling table. With a sweep of his hand, he collected all the space rings that had piled up into a mountain. In the end, he threw the one-blade flow ring to the first elder. "It's yours." Qin Hao smiled. The great elder lowered his head and looked at the ring in his hand. The ring was of a much higher grade than his sumeru pouch. He was absent-minded for a long time. Then, like a lunatic, he let out a wild laugh. "I'm rich. I'm rich." Plop, plop. The second elder and Big Head Su rolled their eyes and fell to the ground, paralyzed. The sound of people falling to the ground rang out one after another. The other elders who bet on Qin Hao's loss regretted it so much that their intestines turned green. They wanted to hold the second elder and his son down and beat them up. "Su yours. Gongshu Jian, I'll pay you back 10 times. Cripple yours." Qin Hao threw 3 beams of light at Su Su, Gongshu Jian, and Tai Guili. According to the bet, Su Su would get 100 Xian crystals and Gongshu Jian would get 5,000. Iron Crutchley got the most. He got a total of 500,000 yuan, which was quite a windfall. "Brother, you have to be honest. You've earned at least 1 billion this time. Isn't 5,000 too little?" Gongshu Jian ignored his mecha and stared at Qin Hao's finger with red eyes. The ring on his finger contained all the belongings of the warriors in the northern region. 1 billion was a small number. A conservative estimate was at least 2 or 3 billion. If magic treasures, weapons, and special items were included, the value would be immeasurable. "Actually, you should give me 500 million, Gongshu Jian also said. He did not look like an honest person at all. "Since we are all members of the Handicapped Association, why don't you donate 50 billion to the other handicapped people in the association and share the burden of the public?" Iron Crutchley followed up. At this moment, his mind was very clear. He was not confused at all. "When did I join the Handicapped Association?" Qin Hao was confused. He flung his sleeves and pulled Su Su out of the arena. She had promised Su that she would accompany him to the children's group competition. "Stop right there." The manager's figure flashed and blocked in front of Qin Hao. In fact, it was not just the manager. All the warriors in the North Division surrounded Qin Hao and Su Su like a solid iron bucket. Everyone stared at them fiercely, clenched their fists, and stopped fighting. "What's wrong? As a witness, are you trying to go back on your word?" Qin Hao smiled disdainfully, completely unafraid of the manager of Platform 9. He pointed at all the hostile auras around him. "And you guys, are you trying to rob me? Could it be that in your eyes, Senior Number 9, who acted as a witness for me and One Blade School, is a pile of dung on the ground? If others attacked, it would be a deliberate provocation in front of the manager of Platform 9. Unknowingly, the manager of the arena became Qin Hao's protector. "Good, very good. Even if I don't blame you and let you take away everyone's spatial rings, once you walk out of the arena, let's see how long you can live. If you have the ability, just leave." The manager of Platform 9 moved aside and made way. If Qin Hao returned everyone's spatial rings, he could pretend that this never happened. If Qin Hao did not know how to appreciate kindness and insisted on going against everyone, once he left the arena, he swore that Qin Hao would not even be able to walk 10 steps, and his blood would definitely splatter everywhere. Smart people should do smart things. Releasing the spatial rings was a wise choice. Unfortunately, since Qin Hao was regarded as a member of the Handicapped Association by Iron Crutchley, then he did not mind doing something stupid. He swaggered and directly pulled Su Su to the children's group competition. The children's group was not in the same area as the adult group. There were 5 streets between them. "You're courting death. Brothers, keep up with him! As long as the blind man steps out of the northern area, we will chop him into pieces. Behind Qin Hao and Su Su, there were tens of thousands of martial artists who aggressively and indignantly chased after them. Their spatial rings were all in Qin Hao's hands. Not only did they contain their years of savings, but also the magical equipment and trump cards that they had prepared for the competition, as Iron Crutchley said. These trump cards were invaluable. Their fathers were dead, but they could not lose their trump cards. Therefore, they followed closely, like tens of thousands of crazy dogs, closely following Qin Hao, fearing that Qin Hao would run away. But Qin Hao did not run away. In fact, as soon as he walked out of the gate of the northern area, he was blocked by several martial artists with extremely terrifying auras. Ha ha, why don't you go? Go on if you dare. Put down all our spatial rings, and we can be merciful and leave your body intact. Hey, brothers, look at who those people in front of us are. As Qin Hao's footsteps stopped at the entrance of the northern competition zone, all the cultivators behind him were stunned as they turned their gazes to the front. They saw 5 people standing in front of Qin Hao. 4 men and 1 woman, each with an extraordinary aura. Even the dark night could not block their radiance. They were Yi Shuihan, Xiaogua, Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, and Hao Zhixing. When the 5 of them appeared in front of Qin Hao, they were so excited that their bodies trembled. Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua desperately clenched their fists and gritted their teeth, trying to control their emotions so that they would not cry. When the martial artists in the northern area saw this scene, they had a different feeling. To others, this was a sign that Qin Hao was going to be torn to pieces. Could it be that Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua's spatial rings are also in Blind's hands? This is 2F** King Spectacular. We don't have to do anything. Even Blind can't die. It's really unfortunate to be an enemy of the Grim Reaper. Tens of thousands of martial artists sneered. Even the manager of Platform Number 9, who was in the crowd, had his arms crossed as if he was waiting to watch a good show. Plop! The great elder was so frightened that he knelt on the ground in front of Yi Shuihan. It's over. It's really over this time. Even 10 peak yuan monarchs were not a match for Yi Shuihan, but Qin Hao could not even defeat 1 peak yuan monarch. The 2 of them were simply not on the same level. Furthermore, Chen Wanqin, Xiaogua, and Yi Wuhan were not decorations. None of them were to be trifled with. Xiaogua was born with superhuman strength and could tear a dragon apart with his bare hands. Chen Wanqin could freeze someone into a 10,000-year-old popsicle with a casual slap. Yi Wuhan was a man who was like the wind and was extremely fast. Hao Zhixing was a terrifying demon king who was nicknamed the Grim Reaper's servant. Any one of them could easily kill Qin Hao tens of thousands of times. This was what the great elder thought. Along with this, he scrambled to grab Yi Shuihan's pants and tore them tightly. He raised his head and begged, "We'll give it to you. We'll give it all to you. We'll give it all to you. Please don't make things difficult for my master." After saying that, he looked at Qin Hao with a face full of tears. He believed that Qin Hao already understood what he meant. At that moment, Su Su was so scared that he was dumbfounded. He was completely at a loss and could only tremble with all his might. He could not even stand up straight. Even if the heavens came, they would not be able to do anything to me, let alone the 5 of you. However, Qin Hao grinned with a relaxed expression. Ha! When Qin Hao laughed, tens of thousands of martialists laughed along with him. He was still so arrogant in front of Yi Shuihan and the other 4. He did not know what was good for him. I think he doesn't even know how to spell the word death. I'm guessing that the blind man will turn into pieces in the next second. I bet 1 million mysterious crystals. Do you still have mysterious crystals? Chapter 955. They couldn't wait to see how Yi Shuihan's group of 5 would torture Qin Hao to death. Thus, tens of thousands of people laughed. They laughed for half an hour until their facial muscles cramped. When the atmosphere was extremely awkward, Yi Shuihan's group finally recovered from their surprise. Qi Zhanzhan took a step forward, ignoring the great elder who was crawling in panic. He walked in front of Qin Hao. Su Hao? You said your name is Su Hao, right? Yi Shuihan said excitedly. Brother Su Hao, I see that you're a talented man with an arrogant demeanor. You give people the feeling of an emperor. Little brother Gua Gua, my admiration for you is like the overflowing river, endless and uncontrollable. It's really a pity that heroes didn't meet earlier. Why don't you accept me as your follower? Kacha. The martial artists in the northern region seemed to have been struck by lightning. They were collectively stunned on the spot. What was this situation? Hello Su Hao, my name is Chen Wanqin. I never thought that there would be such an unusual man like you in the northern region. If I fail in the competition and can't marry the princess, why don't you marry me? Chen Wanqin's jade-like hand gently covered her mouth. She couldn't help but laugh out loud. Zing, zing, zing. Su Su took a few steps back. His eyes were full of shock. At the same time, about 3,000 to 4,000 martial artists rolled their eyes. They couldn't accept the reality and fainted. This can't be real. I must be dreaming. Some martial artists desperately clenched their teeth and insisted on their inner thoughts. Qin Hao wouldn't have a good ending. At this time, Yi Wuhan opened his mouth. I'm Yi Wuhan. Seeing brother Su Hao's heroic spirit, I want to make friends with you. Why don't I be the host? Tonight at the #1 restaurant in the Imperial City, Drunken Immortal Pavilion, you and I will talk for a long time. We won't go home until we're drunk. Sure enough, hearing about you can't compare to meeting you in person. Your temperament, your muscles, your lines are so beautiful, full of sunshine. This little brother is so lucky. I don't know how to say it. I'm very excited. My heart is turbulent. In short, brother Su Hao is so busy. Please take out 1/10,000th of your time and let this little brother treat you to a meal. Please forgive me for not being able to control myself. I'm really. Little Jiu, who used the pseudonym Hao Zhixing, had tears in his eyes. He was unable to extricate himself. He was incoherent to the extreme. Qin Hao was his idol. He was too excited. Although it wasn't his first time seeing Qin Hao, he was always looking at him from afar. Among the tens of thousands of fans in Xiliang, he was just an insignificant admirer. Today, standing face to face in front of his idol, his mood couldn't be understood by ordinary people. In fact, if not for Yi Shuihan quietly grabbing Little Jiu's belt and lifting him up, Little Jiu would have most likely knelt down. Oh God! I puff. The northern region's martial artists, who were still persevering, finally couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. They looked at Little Jiu. Was this still the Grim Reaper's bodyguard? Was he still that cold and aloof man who was as gloomy as a demon king, the one who scared little girls to tears with a glare? You swear you're not a clown invited by a monkey? Yi Shuihan just noticed that there were so many onlookers. Just now, he was too excited and didn't notice. His face couldn't help but sink. What are you looking at? Do you want to die? Little Jiu would never allow others to destroy his chance to talk with his idol. With a bang, his body emitted a gloomy black smoke. Quickly leave. This is too strange. This is too strange. In an instant, the northern region's martial artists surrounding Qin Hao scattered like duck. Although they were unwilling, they weren't stupid enough to go against Yi Shuihan and the others for a few 100,000 mysterious crystals and a so-called trump card. Interesting. Manager number 9, who had never imagined that this would happen, frowned in confusion. As the crowd dispersed, he was forced to leave. In all fairness, as a second-level Yuan Venerate, he wasn't confident that he could take his ring from Qin Hao in front of Yi Shuihan. Yi Shuihan's strength was unfathomable. He hadn't used his full strength yet, so his intuition told him that Yi Shuihan's cultivation base might not be below his. Not to mention, Xiaogua, Chen Wanqin, and the other 4 were all present. Boss. Alliance Chief. Idol. As the crowd fled in panic, Yi Shuihan and the other 4 opened their arms and hugged Qin Hao. There are too many people. See you at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion tonight. Qin Hao took a step back and transmitted his voice to the 5 of them. Okay. Everyone was stunned. They helplessly withdrew their hands, nodded, and turned to leave. Sir, let's go. Qin Hao tugged at Su Su, who stood motionless on the spot as though he had lost his soul. After all, without Su Su leading the way, Qin Hao wouldn't be able to tell the direction. This child was currently his eyes. Xiaogua sensed something and turned around abruptly, only to see Qin Hao's hand groping in front of him. His heart trembled. Big Brother's eyes? Big Brother's eyes were blind. Xiaogua's instinct told him. He really wanted to go up and ask. In the end, he didn't. With a sigh, Xiaogua disappeared into the crowd. He knew that no matter what the reason was, Big Brother would explain everything at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion tonight. No matter who it was, Xiaogua swore that there was no need for that person to live after making Big Brother blind. Sir, Su Su pointed in the direction where Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua left and said foolishly. Yes, a group of strange people, aren't they? Qin Hao smiled and patted Su Su's head. He originally thought that Gua Di and the others would leave the arena after the competition and return to their residence to rest. He didn't expect that they didn't leave. They must have sensed his aura. Qin Hao nodded. He would accompany Su to the competition first. He would have plenty of time to chat with his brothers at night. Under Su Su's lead, Qin Hao arrived at the children's competition area. The children's competition was still in progress. It was also extremely intense. Waves of energy flashed across the arena, and the sound of contestants being sent flying could be heard continuously. The rules were the same as the adult group. The children's competition required one to defeat an opponent to enter the semi-finals. Perhaps it was fate, but when it was Su Su's turn, his opponent was Su Hua. You countries, Su families, Su Su versus you countries, Su Hua. Please enter the arena. The administrator shouted. Thump. Su Su's heart skipped a beat. Why is it Su Hua? Oh no. Su Hua was a level 3 Yuan ancestor. Su Su's cultivation was only at level 7 Yuan ancestor. There was a huge difference between the two. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. Ha ha ha, it's actually Su Su. It's fate, hurry up and get up here. Su Hua was the first to enter the arena. He pointed at Su Su in high spirits. At first, he was worried that he would meet a strong opponent in the children's group. There were a few powerful guys who were at the sage level. Chapter 956. Brother Wax is so lucky. Instead of saying that Brother Wax is lucky, it is better to say that Su Su is unlucky. Ha ha ha. Brother Wax, finish him off. Become the young patriarch of the family in one battle. A bright future awaits you. The Su family youths watching the battle were in an uproar. It was too much of a coincidence. Everyone was impatient. Brother Su Wax, you are the best. Su Mei cheered for Su Wax from below the stage. Su Wax put his hands on his waist and raised his head arrogantly. In his eyes, Su Su was a soft persimmon that he could bully however he wanted. However, Su Su was powerless and could only resign himself to fate. Ha ha ha, my grandson will definitely advance. Sir, congratulations on winning the adult division. I didn't expect you to be a high-level Yuan monarch and be so powerful. However, you have taught a useless piece of trash like Su Su. Ha ha ha, he has become my son's cannon fodder. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I spoke too harshly. Given your character, I don't think you will hold it against me, right? Moreover, Su Su is indeed a useless piece of trash. Ha ha ha. The second elder and Big Head Su rushed to the children's division from the North Arena. Big Head Su's words were mean and provocative. It was as if he was saying, So what if I lose the competition? So what if Qin Hao enters the semifinals? In the end, Su Su, who you taught personally, was defeated by my son, Su Wax. Damn it, who are you calling a useless piece of trash? Su Su had always been suppressed in the Su family and had a lot of grievances in his heart. He could not bear it anymore and glared at Big Head Su. Big Head Su did not act like an elder at all. Whoever agreed is a useless piece of trash, Big Head Su said leisurely. He did not take Su Su seriously at all. You! Su Su was so angry that he wanted to draw his sword. Sir! Qin Hao's warm palm pressed on Su Su's shoulder. The essence energy from the tranquil water flowed into Su Su's body like cool spring water, suppressing Su Su's chaotic emotions. The competition was imminent. He had to calm himself down. Phew! Su Su understood Qin Hao's intentions. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He had to adjust his state of mind to face Su Hua. Only people who are truly trash would call others trash. It was because he felt too inferior and was inferior to others in every aspect. He scolded others as if this could bring balance to his heart. Actually, it's like trash, Qin Hao coldly said to Suda too. He was extremely disgusted. Big Head Su was so angry that his face was burning with anger. But Qin Hao ignored him. He patted Su Su's shoulder and continued, Do you still remember our agreement? Win this match. If you can defeat Su Hua with your own strength, I will have a gift for you. Really? Joy rose on Su Su's cheeks, and he instantly forgot his bad mood. A monarch never goes back on his words, Qin Hao solemnly promised. Thank you, sir. Su Su bowed to salute. He knew very well that as a high-level Yuan monarch, Qin Hao's gift would not be ordinary. It would definitely be heaven-defying. For the sake of the gift, he had to fight with Su Hua. Go! With a push on Su Su's back, Qin Hao sent him to the battle arena with a huge force under his palm. Little Wax, teach him a lesson. Let him know how useless he is. Big Head Su roared fiercely. Don't worry, father. Even if you don't say it, I will break all his bones and make him unable to take care of himself. Su Hua rubbed his fists and laughed sinisterly. He inched closer to Su Su. Brother Wax, do your best. Su Mei, who was below the battle arena, was full of admiration. Once upon a time, she had worshipped Su Su as much as she did today. But that was in the past. Wait! Seeing that Su Hua was about to make a move, Su Su stopped him. What's wrong? Are you scared, coward? Su Hua muttered and spat on Su Su's boots. Su Su looked down and was not angry. He took out a handkerchief and bent down to wipe his shoes clean. Then, with a flick of his hand, the handkerchief floated off the stage and landed on Su Mei's face. Su Mei was also flustered. She was disgusted to the extreme, and the anger on her face was about to burst out. Don't be angry. Let me finish. The Mei I used to know was a good girl. She was obedient, sensible and considerate. But I never thought that it was a premeditated scheme to get close to me and take my belongings. If you can treat me like this, you can treat Su Hua like this in the future. Even getting close to Su Hua now is to get benefits from him. Don't talk nonsense. I'm sincere to Brother Wax. Brother Wax, you have to believe me. Su Mei panicked. Su Su waved his hand. I'm not interested in your trivial matters. I just want to prove one thing. I, Su Su, am not inferior to others and will not lose to Su Hua. Su Mei, open your eyes and watch carefully. Bang! Just as Su Su finished speaking, a fist came flying towards him and Su Hua hit his face. Su Su flew backwards. 2 streams of blood flowed out from his nose and scattered in the wind. A competition is a competition. Why are you talking about women? Women are like clothes. You idiot. Su Hua did not give Su Su a chance to fight back. He immediately followed up with another attack. The Su family's crushing stone fist was used to its fullest potential. Every punch landed on Su Su's body. This punch immediately turned Su Su into a bloody man. Ha ha ha, Brother Wax is too flirtatious. The Su family's youths cheered in unison. They saw Su Su hugging his head and curling up on the ground. This outcome was not surprising at all. Su Mei curled her lips at Su Su, who was being beaten up on the stage. I thought you had some tricks up your sleeve. Turns out you only know how to talk. However, she did not notice that although Su Su was powerless to fight back, the fighting spirit in his eyes did not diminish. Su is looking for an opportunity. Qin Hao closed his eyes. He could feel Su Su's aura growing stronger. It was obvious that he was accumulating energy. There was a big gap between Yuan Shi and Yuan Zong. Qin Hao was experienced and knew this very well. Su Su could not win against Su Hua in a head-on fight. Therefore, he could only look for an opportunity. That was his only chance to strike. It was also his only chance to win. Bang! 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 The fist shadows on the stage rang for a long time. Along the way there was a crackling sound. No one knew how many of Su Su's bones were broken. In the end, Su Hua was completely exhausted. He stopped panting and took 2 steps back. He looked at Su Su, who had collapsed on the ground and was curled up in a pool of blood like a kitten. Su Hua laughed, ha ha, he did not even have the strength to fight back. There is no challenge at all. Hey, who cares? Senior manager, my opponent has lost. Hurry up and announce my victory. Congratulations to you country's Su Hua for successfully advancing. The manager immediately shouted. However, before he could finish his sentence, Ting. Chapter 957. The entire arena was shocked. To be able to stand up with such injuries, one must have a lot of endurance. If it were any other master, they would not have the confidence to stand up like Su Su after receiving so many punches from Yuan Zong. They would not even have the guts to fight. You brat, your bones are really tough. Su Zhang was furious. He rushed up and used another round of crushing King Kong fist. Shadows of his fists flashed. If one set was not enough, he would use another. He wanted to see if Su Su's body was made of flesh. Ha ha, now you know how powerful I am? Su Su, say something. Looking at Su Su, who had fallen to the ground, Su Zhang stopped and observed for a long time. When he saw that Su Su was no longer moving, he heaved a sigh of relief. He turned his head and gave the manager a look, telling him that he could announce his victory. Ting! Before the manager could open his mouth, Su Su stood up again. I can still fight. Blood flowed from his nose and mouth. The corner of Su Su's eye was also broken. Blood blurred his vision, but his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Damn! The Su family youths were moved. Although Su Su's strength is not as strong as Brother Wax, his courage is really admirable. The Su family youths were moved. Actually, they were not the only ones who were moved, including the spectators and the adults who were cheering for their children. When they saw Su Su's indomitable spirit, they were secretly impressed. Why do you have to do this? Sigh. The manager of the arena sighed. He was an old man in his 60s. He had a kind face and could not bear to continue watching. As a master, no matter how much he struggled, he could not win against Yuan Zong. If it were any other contestant, they would have given up long ago. Why would they suffer for nothing? He felt that it was not worth it for Su Su. As long as I have a breath left, I will never admit defeat. This is what teacher taught me. Su Su said stubbornly. Perhaps it was the blood that stimulated his bloodthirstiness. He looked at Su Zhang with a ferocious gaze. Waxy, beat him down in one move. Use the last move of crushing King Kong fist, shattering the sky fist. Second elder and big head Su roared. Su Su's tenacity was beyond imagination. Only by using the Su family's powerful Yuan Qi attack to send him flying off the stage would he give up. Shattering the sky fist. Su Hua did not hesitate to use his final trump card. A powerful blue brilliance spread out from his body. The surging primordial chi flowed along his arm and gathered in his right fist, forming a blue ball of light. The ball of light grew stronger and stronger, causing the arena to shake. Su, hurry up and admit defeat. You will lose your life. Su Mei clenched her hands and shouted nervously. That's right, Su. Stop resisting, Brother Wax. It's too stupid. We're all from the Su family. Although we don't really like you, you can't joke around with your life. Just admit defeat, idiot. The Su family's youths all tried to persuade him. Sir said that you never know what will happen until the last moment. Su was indifferent to the persuasion of the crowd. He even spread his legs, bent his waist, and lowered his horse, assuming a stance to meet his opponent's attack head-on. Stubborn. Su Zhang was completely enraged, and he swung his right fist viciously. The blue ball of light in his fist turned into a cone-shaped energy. It was like a dragon striking the sea, setting off a strong gust of wind. Seeing this scene, many people turned their heads to the side, unable to bear to watch. Bang! As expected, when the blue ball of light came into contact with Su, the monstrous energy smashed into his body. Su raised his head and spat out a mouthful of blood. His internal organs were in a mess, and he fell off the arena involuntarily. Huff, huff. Su Hua used his trump card and took a few deep breaths. From beginning to end, he had used up a lot of energy. However, when he saw that other than himself, there was no sign of Su on the arena, he finally felt relieved and laughed. Ha ha ha, I won in the end. No, you haven't won yet. Su's voice interrupted Su Hua. A pale palm was clinging to the edge of the arena. His 5 fingers were clasped together and trembling. If one followed the image, they would see that Su's entire body was hanging on the side of the arena. Then, he gathered his chi and borrowed the strength of his palm. With a whoosh, he returned to the arena and stood in front of Su Hua. Boom! Su Hua looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face was twisted to the extreme. He could not even defeat Su. It was. At this moment, even the manager of the arena, the old man in his 60s, was moved. He looked at Su and could not help but praise. The competition has been going on for almost half a month and I have seen countless geniuses. However, this is the first time I have seen such a tenacious child like you. No matter what, even if you lose, your name will be engraved in the old man's heart. Good job. Whose child is that? He has such a backbone. Many of the Daliao citizens who were watching from the sidelines cheered. Hearing these voices, Su was so emotional that tears flowed down his cheeks. He muttered to himself, Father, although you are not by my side, but I have not given up. I have always worked hard to protect the foundation you left behind. I will not give up the position of young clan leader. You will be proud of me, right? Wiping the tears from his face, Su's courage increased. He shouted at Su Hua, Come on, I can still fight. Su Hua's heart skipped a beat. It was hard to imagine that Su could still stand in front of him after taking so many attacks. At this moment, even he began to admire Su. Why? Su Hua asked, If you know you will lose, why do you still fight? There is no reason. Before I achieve victory, there is no turning back. Su replied. Victory? Creak. Su Hua clenched his fists tightly. In front of me, Su, what victory do you have? I did not want to kill you, but you forced me to kill you. Then you can go to hell. Anyone who dares to stop me from becoming young clan leader deserves to die. After roaring, Su Hua's waist flashed and a 9-ringed saber appeared in his hand. The saber radiated light as it stabbed forward. Poochie! The saber was as quick as lightning. It was abnormally fast. Accompanied by the sound of the weapon entering the body, Su Hua's saber was buried in Su's chest. The two of them faced each other and stuck together. Murder! Su Mei and the other Su family youths below the stage all covered their eyes. Although the children's group competition was cruel, there had never been a murder scene. Susu's incident was the first. Death is not to be regretted. Big Head Su snorted. Looking at the 9-ring saber penetrating Susu's body, his palms were sweaty. On the stage was the clan leader, Su Qingming's son. If it was in the past when Su Qingming was still around, he would not even dare to think about it, let alone think about someone killing Susu. But today, someone from the Su family did it. The perpetrator was Big Head Su's son. The madness stimulated his nerves, making Big Head Su feel inexplicably excited. At this moment, Qin Hao spoke. His tightly closed eyes opened. His gaze was extremely bright, and the corner of his mouth was full of praise. The only chance. Sir, you did well. Chapter 958. At this moment, Su Mei, who was watching the battle, screamed in horror. Upon closer inspection, Su, who was on the stage, had not been hit. The blade had not pierced his chest, but was clamped tightly under Su's armpit, causing Su Hua to be unable to move. How is this possible? Su Hua was shocked. How did Su, who was at Yuan Zhong's level, avoid his full-force blade? He could not understand. At this moment, a loud roar erupted in front of Su Hua. Su's roar was so loud that Su Hua's eardrums were about to burst. Heavenly snow! Swoosh! Su raised his hand to his shoulder and pulled out the sword on his back. The surrounding temperature suddenly dropped, and snowflakes suddenly fell and floated on the stage. Su had finally used the flying snow swordplay that Qin Hao had taught him. The last move of the swordplay was the most difficult move. All this time, he had not been able to use this move freely. This was because this move took too long to accumulate energy. After accumulating energy, the yuan qi gathered would be too strong. It was difficult to control the direction of the swordplay, which meant that it was difficult to hit the enemy. But at this moment, this was not a problem. Su Hua stood in front of him, his blade still clamped by Su. He was in a daze. The timing was right. Even a blind man would be able to hit Su Zhu if he were to randomly swing his sword. Pung! The surging sword radiance swept up the raging snowflakes and slashed across Su Hua's chest. The terrifying power of the earth-grade peak swordplay was like a huge wave. The sword aura passed through Su Hua's entire body and sent him flying. Along the way, the snowflakes formed a snowstorm that raged on him and ravaged him. It also made Su Hua scream like never before. He screamed. Finally, with a loud bang, Su Hua smashed onto the edge of the battle stage. A thick layer of snow had accumulated on his body. The snow quickly melted as Su's yuan qi dissipated. But Su Hua's face was full of pain. Most of his clothes were torn and it was difficult for him to even move his fingers. It was obvious that he did not have the strength to continue the battle. How could this be? Su Mei covered her face with her hands in shock and stared at the battle stage. The Su family youths were collectively shocked. Clang! Su's hand went limp and his long sword fell to the ground. He began to gasp for breath, his face extremely pale. From the very beginning, he had been desperately accumulating his strength. Even if he was beaten up violently, even if he was almost sent flying off the stage, he had been enduring and waiting for an opportunity to strike. Now the soda wax was finally gone. Although the sword didn't take his opponent's life, Su still couldn't bear it. However, it had also caused Su Hua unprecedented injuries. She would have to lie in bed for at least half a year before she could fully recover. The genius of Yuanzhong, actually lost to Su, lost to a trash Yuanzhong. Su Hua roared as he lay on the ground. He tried his best to struggle, but he could not get up. He was extremely unwilling. The sword strike just now had shaken his inner palace, causing him to lose the ability to circulate his primal qi. How could this be? Suda too was so angry that he almost lost his mind. Waxy, take the energy burst pill, quick! The second elder clenched his fists and roared anxiously. Thump! Qin Hao's heart skipped a beat. In order to help the Su clan participate in the Imperial Martial Competition, he had refined 20 explosive yuan pills in advance and distributed them to the Su clan. Given the second elder's status in the Su clan, how could his grandson not have an energy burst pill? The energy burst pill was a 4th-grade sacred medicine. As long as one did not lose an arm or a leg, after taking it, all injuries would be healed instantly. It would double the attack power and last for 15 minutes without any side effect. As Qin Hao had refined a supreme-grade pill, the effect might be stronger than expected. Once Su Hua took it, in fact, even without Qin Hao's reminder, Su had already thought of it. He quickly rushed forward to stop Su Hua from taking the energy burst pill. However, he was still a step too late. Gulp! Su Zhang took out the explosive yuan pill and swallowed it without even chewing it, swallowing it whole. A dazzling light flashed from his body. After the light dissipated, Su Hua stood up from the ground again. All the injuries on his body had healed without any treatment. His muscles were stronger than before, and the strong blue primal qi was twice as thick as before. I have never felt such a terrifying power. Even if a high-level Sky Grandmaster were to stand in front of me, I am confident that I can kill him with one punch. Su Hua looked at his hands in shock. He clenched his fists, and the veins on his arms bulged. His muscles were strong and powerful, and traces of energy flowed through his fingers. He had the impulse to destroy a mountain with one punch. Immediately, he gave Su a sinister smile. Now, let's fight again. Ha ha, this is too funny. The elixir you refined personally has tricked Su, who you trained. As Su Hua stood up, his aura was even stronger than before. Big Head Su pointed at Qin Hao and laughed. Sir. At this moment, Su looked at Qin Hao for help. In order to use the flying snow, he had used all his primal qi and was exhausted. Moreover, he was injured. Even if Su Hua had not swallowed the energy explosion elixir, Su would not be able to defeat him by surprise. Cough cough, this is my mistake. However, it does not matter. The energy explosion elixir will only increase one's attack power. The other attributes will not change. From what I know, Su Hua should not have cultivated any high-level body movement techniques, right? Qin Hao chuckled and said to Su, he has eaten the energy explosion elixir. Although his attack power is strong, it will only last for 15 minutes. Use the third move of the flying snow sword, Traceless Snow Steps. Do not fight with him, after 15 minutes, that works? Su stared. Traceless Snow Steps was nimble, and it was perfect for dodging the clumsy Su Hua. Most importantly, Su was weak. Just listen to me. Su Hua is coming. Get out of the way, kid. Qin Hao reminded him telepathically. At this moment, Su saw Su Hua swaying like a bear. His primal qi was gushing out from his body as he hugged Su. Traceless Snow Steps. Su twisted his feet. His body was as light as falling snow. He floated to the side, making it difficult for Su Hua to even touch his clothes. Moreover, he discovered that an inexplicable force was continuously being produced in his body. It flowed into Su's dantian and provided him with new primal qi. This force and the warm current under the master's palm. Su looked at Qin Hao in surprise. Qin Hao nodded at Su as if they were connected. The warm current in Su's body was the power of Qin Hao's serene water. This force not only provided Su with primal qi, but it was also gradually healing his injuries. In other words, even if Su did not receive the energy explosion elixir from the Su family, his recovery speed was not inferior to Su Hua's. At this moment, Su was so touched that he wanted to cry. Shattered Stone Vajra Fist. Traceless Snow Steps. Shattered Stone Vajra Fist. Traceless Snow Steps. Again and again, The audience stared dumbfoundedly at the two youths who were chasing after each other. It was as if they were playing a game of cat and mouse. After eating the energy explosion elixir, Su Hua's ability had indeed increased significantly. However, Su Su's flying snow swordplay was a peak Earth-grade martial technique. Although the energy explosion elixir was far inferior to the water-wind god steps, it was enough to toy with a small yuan zone from the mortal world. This made Su Hua feel helpless, as if she was powerless but unable to carry out the mission. After 15 minutes, Su Hua sullenly discovered that the energy explosion elixir's time was up. Flying snow steps. It was the same move again. It landed heavily on Su Hua's chest. Su Su was not idle while dodging his opponent's attack. He was preparing for his own counterattack. When the energy explosion elixir's time was up, Su Hua's sword accurately hit his opponent. As expected, Su Hua was sent flying with a wail. This time, he landed 100 feet away from the stage and did not climb back up. Congratulations to the Yu Kingdom's Su Su for winning. The elder on the stage cheered. Chapter 959. Night. Liangmin Pub. The whole Su family gathered in the hall on the first floor to celebrate their good results in this competition. In fact, except for Qin Hao and Su Su, everyone else had been eliminated. Even so, it was still worth celebrating. After all, Qin Hao and Su Su entering the semifinals was a glorious thing for the family. At a table near the corner of the hall, Su Hua's father, Su De, and the second elder were very unhappy. The second elder looked as if he expected better from Su Hua and only focused on drinking. Su Hua himself lowered his head. Facing his grandfather's stern gaze, he didn't dare to say a word. From time to time, he would secretly glance at Su Su. The emotions in his eyes were very complicated. In addition to the disdain in the past, there was now a kind of fear. So. Just as the Su family was celebrating, in the dark night outside the pub, a luxurious palanquin with 9 dragons was solemnly carried on the shoulders of 4 martial artists in black. The 4 of them looked like they were walking in the air. They arrived in front of the pub and slowly landed. The prince of the western Liang Silk Country admires Mr. Su's name. He specially invites Mr. Su to the Drunken Immortal Pavilion for a chat. We are here to welcome him. One of the martial artists in black, who looked quite vigorous, shouted solemnly. His voice passed through the pub's door into the hall. The Su family members were stunned. The wine glass in their hands was stuck in front of them. Everyone, please continue. I have something to do and will go out for a while. Qin Hao smiled faintly and got up to leave. Gua Di, Shui Han, and Wan Qin should be waiting anxiously. The prince of the Silk Country? That little monster named Xiaogua, who defeated more than 1,000 people in the northern region? Yes, it's him. How does he know Mr. Su? You still don't know? Not only Xiaogua, today Yi Shuihan, Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, and even the northern region's Grim Reaper, Hao Zhixing, all blocked the entrance of the northern region and worshipped Mr. Su. Some of the Su family members who watched Qin Hao's match told the scene to those who didn't go to the scene. This is too shocking. 5 super experts ranked in the top 50 of the Imperial Martial Roll have invited our master to dinner. Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua are ranked in the top 20 of the Imperial Martial Roll. Our sir is so proud. Everyone discussed animatedly and ran out to take a look. Su De and the second elder didn't go. They sat in their original positions and drank cup after cup of wine. The more they drank, the more bitter they felt. Sir. Su Su was the first to chase after them. He was very anxious. He had defeated Su Hua and successfully advanced to the semi-finals of the children's group. He had once again won back the attention of the great elder. The happiest person today was Su Su. However, he did not forget that Qin Hao had promised him that he would give him a small surprise. Qin Hao turned around and patted Su Su's head as he sensed the powerful aura of the 4 black-clothed martial artists in front of him. How long until the semi-finals of the children's group? Sir, there is still half a month to prepare. Su Su replied truthfully. In fact, Qin Hao had already expected this result. The number of people in the children's group was far less than the adult group. Next, the children's group would enter a state of recuperation and the competition would be suspended. However, the adult group would still continue. Half a month later, on the day of your semifinals, I will give you a small surprise. Qin Hao smiled and turned around to enter the 9-dragon palanquin carried by the 4 black-clothed martial artists. Smoke rose from the soles of the 4 black-clothed martial artists' feet. 4 balls of powerful scarlet flame aura flickered as they carried the palanquin and disappeared in front of the Su family members in the blink of an eye. His 4 Pinnacle King stage martial artists! The great elder exclaimed in shock. The Silk Nation prince was not to be trifled with. The men who carried the palanquin were the strongest among the Yuan kings. However, the fact that 4 of them were sent to welcome Sir was enough to show how much importance the Silk Nation Prince Xiaogua placed on Qin Hao. His respect for Qin Hao was self-evident. Sir is so talented. Why was he not born in the Su family? Sigh. The great elder sighed and turned around to return to the pub. Why did he have to wait until the day of my competition to tell me the surprise? Su Su shouted at the night sky, looking very unwilling. He was very much looking forward to Qin Hao's gift. However, Qin Hao's voice did not come from the night sky. When he appeared again, Brother Hao had already arrived at the bustling central area of the imperial capital. The imperial capital of Daliao was larger than the imperial capital of Luoshui. The Good Citizen pub was located at the outermost periphery, in an unusually remote location. The area where the Drunken Immortal Pavilion was located was brightly lit, as if it was daytime. There was an endless stream of people on the streets, and couples were shopping at the night market. It was extremely lively. Your Highness, Prince Qi and Prince Xuehan are waiting for you in the most luxurious private room on the top floor. We will not disturb you any further. The black-clothed martial artist who led the team to welcome Qin Hao said. After that, the palanquin openly floated on the top floor of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. Qin Hao replied. He slowly stepped out of the palanquin and stepped onto the corridor on the top floor. He then turned around and asked the black-clothed martial artist kindly, "Are you from the Longchuan army? Or are you from the Quick Run Battalion?" In the eyes of the Su family's grand elder, these 4 people were the subordinates of the Silk Country's prince. However, in front of Qin Hao, he could recognize that these 4 people were the warriors that the Qin family had painstakingly cultivated. The 4 black-clothed martial artists emitted the smell of the 7 Treasures liquid. The 7 Treasures liquid was the upgraded version of the 6 Good liquid. It could strengthen a martial artist's physique and make him stronger than others of the same level. Moreover, only the people of the Qin family would call Qin Hao Your Highness so intimately. After all, Qin Hao was the prince of Shiliang Daqin. Your Highness, we are the soldiers of the Heavenly Guard Battalion of the Qin family. Crash! The 4 black-clothed martial artists respectfully knelt down in the air. They were all very excited. Rise. My grandfather, my 4th uncle, my father, and my mother, are they all here? Qin Hao asked gently. Your Highness, all the members of the Qin family are here. As for the details, you can go in and discuss with Prince Qi. Prince Qi has been waiting for you for a long time. If we don't go in, I'm afraid the Violent Bear army will cause trouble for us. The black-clothed man was somewhat afraid. He said. The Violent Bear army could be considered the Xiaogua's family army. They were all over 2 meters tall and looked like savages. Once they went crazy, they wouldn't reason with you at all. Ha ha, good. Qin Hao threw a spatial ring at the black-clothed martial artist. Take it and drink with your brothers. After speaking, He walked along the corridor and opened the door to the Emperor's private room in the drunken, immortal pavilion. "Thank you, Your Highness." The 4 black-clothed martial artists were overjoyed. They turned around and carried the palanquin, disappearing into the night. "Pockmarked Wei, you dare to speak ill of me? See if I don't skin you bastard when we get back." "Ha ha! Big brother!" When Qin Hao opened the door, Xiaogua and the others all came forward to greet him. They were incomparably cordial. "Boss." "Qin Hao." Alliance Master, we finally meet again. Do you still remember me? I'm the Death God's valet. Ah no, I'm Hao Zhixing. I'm a little excited. You can call me Little Nine. I'm your loyal fan." Whoosh. Yi Shuihan, Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, and Little Nine surrounded Qin Hao. "Sit, sit, sit. Everyone, sit. There's plenty of time to chat." Qin Hao couldn't take it anymore. He groped around, pulled over a chair, and sat down. "Big brother, your eyes?" At this time, Xiaogua finally couldn't help but speak. As he spoke, Chen Wanqin and Yi Shuihan also noticed that Qin Hao was different from before. Chapter 960. It's a long story. Qin Hao sighed softly and told Yi Shuihan and the others about the bloody battle on Lanchuan Mountain in detail. Fortunately, the old demon had been there to help. Otherwise, the consequences would have been very serious and Qin Hao might have died. Yi Shuihan and the others were deeply shocked after listening to the story and were speechless for a long time. An inferior sovereign, 10 peak yuan venerates, more than 20 venerate assassins, and more than 200 high-level yuan monarchs. Yi Shuihan's eyes were filled with fear. Just thinking about that scene made his scalp go numb. Yi Shuihan's cultivation had improved greatly and he had entered the venerate level after receiving special training from Yi Longyuan. Even so, even with the help of everyone present, it was impossible to defeat the enemies that Qin Hao was facing. And this had happened more than half a year ago. At that time, Qin Hao's strength had already reached such a terrifying level. How strong was he now? Yi Wuhan and Little Jiu's expressions became extremely bitter. "But your eyes," Chen Wanqin's jade-white hands clenched tightly. She had once been drugged by a flower thief and experienced the feeling of blindness. Her whole body had sunk into darkness and she was filled with fear of everything around her. Qin Hao was such an outstanding person. How painful would it be for him to lose his sight? "Don't worry, it's only temporary. I have refined an elixir to restore his sight." Qin Hao smiled and comforted everyone. He didn't dare say that his physique was different from ordinary people and that he could recover by himself even if he turned into minced meat. This kind of heaven-defying physique was exclusive to god powerhouses. In the current world, Emperor Yuan was the most powerful and there were no more god-level powerhouses. For Qin Hao to say it out loud, it was a bit too shocking. "I believe in Big Brother's ability. However, the difficulty of the competition will get higher and higher. Will it affect you?" Xiaogua asked worriedly. They had participated in the competition purely for fun. At most, they would represent Western Liang against the powerhouses of the other 3 regions. However, Qin Hao was participating in the competition to see Xiao Han. "Even if I lose my light, not everyone can step on my head. Why not? Why don't you give it a try?" Qin Hao followed Yi Shuihan's aura and beckoned him over with a smile. "No, no, 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 no." Yi Shuihan hurriedly waved his hands in front of him. What a joke. More than half a year ago, Qin Hao already possessed the ability to kill a mid-level yuan venerate head-on. Yi Shuihan was only a low-level yuan venerate at the moment. He would rather find an administrator to fight one-on-one than provoke Qin Hao, even if Qin Hao had lost his light. "Sai, forget about us. If Big Sister Xing'er finds out that the leader is blind, she'll probably gouge out someone else's eyes to treat you." Little Nine thought about it. This was definitely going to happen. Xing'er? It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned Xing'er. Now that he did, Qin Hao asked, "Where are the others?" "Xinger, little Zhu, little Li, big sister Aku, and my cousin. Are they not here?" "How could they not be here?" Yi Xuehan spread his hands. "Boss, the entire Western Liang martial world was shaken when your signal arrived. Xinger and big brother Qin Yun naturally came as well. However, there were too many people, so it was inevitable that they would attract the attention of others. We are competing separately. Big brother Qin Yun is in the southern competition zone, while Xinger should be in the eastern competition zone." Yi Xuehan actually wanted to say that it wasn't just Qin Yun and Xinger. Almost all the rising stars of Western Liang had rushed to the northern border to boost Qin Hao's momentum. Unfortunately, Qin Hao didn't know any of them. If he did, at least 30% of the martialists who had reached the semifinals were from Western Liang. These martialists came from various sects and had spontaneously organized themselves to help Qin Hao kill the other martialists in the arena. This way, it would greatly shorten the time it took for Qin Hao to win the championship, allowing him to stand in front of Xiao Han as soon as possible. As he spoke, Yi Xuehan also took out his golden token for entering the semifinals and injected his essence into it. The golden token in his palm emitted a light, and a white light screen immediately appeared in front of everyone. On the light screen was a densely packed list of participants. If Qin Hao could see it, he would discover that this light screen was the Emperor Martial ranking that had been floating in the sky of the northern competition zone during the day. However, Yi Xuehan had activated a miniaturized version of it. Through his mind, he flipped through the Emperor Martial ranking. Qin Yun and Xinger's names were on the list. Qin Yun ranked 31st on the Emperor Martial ranking. Xinger ranked 32nd on the Emperor Martial ranking. She was actually ranked right below Qin Yun. It could be seen that Xinger's cultivation had improved a lot in the past year. I never expected the advancement token to have such an effect. Qin Hao had learned something new. Even though he could not see it with his eyes, the expert who drew the Emperor Martial ranking had an extremely powerful cultivation. When the miniaturized version of the Emperor Martial ranking appeared, it had already been imprinted in Qin Hao's mind through his mind. Qin Hao could also flip through the names he wanted to see on the list at any time. In fact, the first name he flipped through was himself. Qin Hao ranked 672 on the Emperor Martial ranking. This was a ranking that he had managed to squeeze into after killing one saber stream. Actually, when Qin Hao flipped through the Emperor Martial ranking in his mind, Yi Xuehan's ranking was also moving. Qin Hao's mind stopped, and his own name happened to be stuck in his mind. At this moment, Yi Xuehan and the others saw it and could not help but feel embarrassed. Boss's ranking is really terrible, isn't it? If it were up to me, Boss would at least be in the top 15. Melon Lord, this is your fault. You are clearly looking down on my idol. If it were up to me, he would be in the top 10. Xiao Zhu said indignantly. The corners of Qin Hao's mouth twitched. Are you King praising me? Or do you not have confidence in me? Why not say the top 3? Are the top 10 on the Emperor Martial ranking very strong? Qin Hao asked. This. Xiao Jiu and Yi Xuehan looked at each other and nodded. They should be very strong because the current top 10 on the Emperor Martial ranking, besides the known Crown Prince of Northern Yen, Murong Zijuan, and the Crown Prince of Northern Qi Yuan, the other 8 positions are vacant. That's right. Even the top genius of Daliao, Duan Ziju, is only outside the top 10. He happens to be 11th. However, for the other 8 positions in the top 10, rather than being vacant, it would be better to say that someone deliberately used external forces to hide their names from the other contestants. Only the top 10 in the finals will probably appear. As Xiao Zhu spoke, she was a little nervous and excited. According to Yi Xuehan's analysis, the Emperor Martial ranking was most likely drawn up by Emperor Xiao Yi. The willpower of an emperor-level expert was very strong. Basically, Xiao Yi could clearly see the level of all the contestants with a sweep of his willpower. Therefore, the Emperor Martial ranking was very reliable. So, Yi Shuihan, who was so powerful, was only ranked 15th. One could imagine how heaven-defying the top 10 and even the top 3 contestants were. It was indeed very exciting. Xiao Ju really wanted to see it. Duan Ziju is 11th, Murong Zijuan is 5th, Qi Yuan is 6th. Qin Hao thought in his heart and nodded silently. He admitted that the rankings might be true. After all, when the Blue River Mountain incident happened, Duan Ziju and Murong Zijuan's cultivation was about the same as Yi Shuihan's. It was reasonable for them to surpass Yi Shuihan now. It seemed that the cultivation of the top 3 on the Emperor Martial ranking could not be underestimated. As Xiao Ju said, they must be very strong. Chapter 961. Ha ha ha! Yi Shuihan laughed and took a sip of the tea in front of him. Boss, don't worry. That won't happen. With the huge network of the Luo Shui royal family, he had received news from the Imperial Martial Arts competition that the semi-finals would no longer be a competition between contestants. Instead, they would use another method to determine the qualifications of the new contestant. Because there were too many contestants, it would take too long for them to compete one-on-one. The organizers had decided to select 50 contestants from each division to participate in the finals. Yi Shuihan wasn't too sure about the specific method of selection. However, they would not fight against Qin Hao. At least, they would not meet before the semifinals. As for the finals after the semifinals, there would be a total of 200 contestants from the 4 divisions. The chances of them meeting were very small. After hearing Yi Shuihan's explanation, Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief. If he had to personally send Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan off the stage in the next semifinals, he would not be able to do it. Idle, after talking for so long, you still don't know much about me. Next, let's have a friendly chat and deepen each other's impression. Allow me to introduce myself again. I am Xiao Jiu, your loyal fan. I have been imitating you. You look. Little Nine pointed at the top of his head. His hairstyle was exactly the same as Qin Hao's ponytail. Your hairstyle, your attire, the way you usually speak, the calmness and coldness you display when facing the enemy, each and every one of your actions are deeply imprinted in my mind. Your every move is imprinted in my bones. Xiao Ju said excitedly. The first time he paid attention to Qin Hao was at the 4 Nations martial arts competition held by the Beiwu Nation. At the martial arts competition, Qin Hao killed Long Aotian and killed Zhao Ritian, causing Yi Liangchen to admit defeat. Xiao Jiu was deeply captivated by Qin Hao's temperament. Next, he followed Qin Hao's footsteps all the way to Luoshui's imperial city. Once again, he witnessed Qin Hao's impressive results in the Rising Star competition. The last time was when you wreaked havoc in Starry Moon Academy, killed Qiandao, and forced Tian Daluo to flee. My respect for you is endless. The more Little Nine spoke, the more excited he became. As he spoke, he clenched his fists and placed them behind his back. He secretly activated his Yuan Qi, causing his clothes to flutter. He had a cold and calm expression, and his face had a trace of Qin Hao's charm. Pucci, ha ha ha. Little Nine, this fellow? I really can't stand him. Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan roared with laughter and slammed their palms on the table. Good, good, good. Little Nine, right? I'll remember you. Qin Hao blushed with shame. What a fanatical fan. He asked, Are you an Essence Soul Realm martial artist? Yes, my idol. Little Nine immediately regained his senses from playing the role of Qin Hao, and quickly bowed in response. Show me your Essence Soul. Qin Hao was interested. Little Nine was the first dark element martial artist he had met after his rebirth. Are you sure? Little Nine's eyes widened. Because his Essence Soul was special, it was disliked by many. Even Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan were very sensitive to Little Nine's essence soul. Once his essence soul appeared, it would make people feel uncomfortable. In front of his idol, he did not want to arouse Qin Hao's disgust. It's just an essence soul. Come, let me see it. Although Qin Hao could not see the sword, he could feel it. Big brother, let's not do it? Yes, boss. There's nothing to see. Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua tried to dissuade him. They quickly avoided Little Nine. Including Chen Wanqin and Yi Wuhan. They tightly closed their eyes. It was as if in the next second, a demon would appear in front of them. Since my idol wants to see it, then I must show it. I hope my idol can give me a few pointers. Come out, nightmare. Not allowing Xiaogua and Yi Wuhan to refuse, Little Nine opened his arms and summoned his essence soul. Qin Hao's understanding of martial arts was very profound. Little Nine knew that Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan had received Qin Hao's pointers to a large extent. That was why they had such outstanding cultivation today. How could he miss this chance to show off himself? Following his summoning of his essence soul, in an instant, the most luxurious emperor's private room fell into darkness. Moreover, there were faint curses accompanying it. The scene was eerie to the extreme. At this time, Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan had already closed their eyes. No one knew where they were hiding. Nightmare's night, this is my essence soul. In the dark space, Little Nine's voice rang out, but no one could see where he was. Once Little Nine summoned his essence soul, the opponent would immediately fall into his nightmare's night. In this area, there would be no light and danger would surround them. Little Nine would be like a demon, charging out at any time to deal a fatal blow to the opponent. If the martial artist's mind was not strong enough, there would be terrifying symptoms like hallucinations. In short, the nightmare's night was Little Nine's world. In his world, the enemy would be weakened, and he was the master. This was similar to the domain that Qin Hao had awakened, which was his talent ability. Although it was not as strong as the domain, it was enough to show Little Nine's strength. After all, this was his innate ability. It was an innate skill. Ha ha ha, isn't it very strong? My idol has fallen into my nightmare's night for the first time. What thoughts do you have? Little Nine's voice was filled with pride. When Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan had seen his essence soul for the first time, they had suddenly lost their sight and fell into darkness. In that moment it was easy for people to panic. When they panicked, Little Nine had suddenly turned into a dark demon king, causing people to feel extreme fear. If one's mind was not strong enough, they would completely collapse. In his mind, Qin Hao would also feel panicked at this moment. Feeling? I don't feel anything. That's right, did you use your essence soul? Why can't I feel anything at all? Qin Hao's voice was filled with confusion. Gotcha. Honglong. This time, Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan were both shocked. There's no reaction at all? How is that possible? That's right, Big Brother is blind now. He can't see at all, so he can't feel that he has fallen into the nightmare's night. Everyone was speechless. On Little Nine's head, there were also 3 lines of awkward cold sweat. He was an intelligent person, instantly understanding the flaw in his essence soul. So his essence soul had no effect on blind people. It seemed like he had to be careful in the future, being careful of capsizing in the gutter. Oh, so it's a essence soul that can make people lose their light. If you suddenly lose your sight, you can use the moment of panic to deal a fatal blow. This is indeed a very good essence soul. Qin Hao nodded his head in praise. In a fight between experts, a split second was enough to decide the victor. Little Nine's essence soul had a very strong practicality. When Little Nine heard this, he had a dispirited look on his face as he put away his essence soul. The light in the room returned to normal. It seems like I don't need to give you any pointers, you've already comprehended something. Qin Hao laughed. Although this was his first time meeting Little Nine, He could feel that this person was very smart and very intelligent. Quang Dang. Chapter 962. They had deliberately chosen the Emperor's private room on the top floor of the drunken immortal pavilion to meet with Qin Hao. The Emperor's private room should not be disturbed by outsiders. However, someone was looking for trouble. The leader of this group of people was a noble young man dressed in luxurious clothes and with an arrogant face. When he saw that the person in the private room was Yi Xuehan, the noble young man was stunned. Then he smiled and said, "I was wondering who it was. No wonder the steward didn't dare to kick him out." "Kick him out? So it's you, Yi Xuehan, and Prince Xiaogua of the spinning country." Not only were Yi Xuehan and Xiaogua there, but also Chen Wanqin, who was ranked 20th on the imperial martial roll, Yi Wuhan, who was ranked 36th, and Hao Zhixing, who was ranked 50th, were all there. This really surprised the noble young man. "LV Songliang," Yi Xuehan muttered in a low voice, and his anger rose to the tip of his brows. LV Songliang, ranked 396th on the imperial martial roll, was also a contestant from the northern region. However, this person had an extraordinary background, so Yi Xuehan had paid attention to him. "Get out of here." In the next second, Yi Xuehan said with a cold face and pointed at LV Songliang's nose. A piece of trash ranked 396th on the imperial martial roll. Even if he had some background, he did not take this person seriously. "What did you say?" LV Songliang frowned as if he had heard a joke. He asked unscrupulously, "You want me to get out? Ha ha ha, don't joke around. The person who should get out is not me, but you." He arrogantly raised his hand and pointed at Xiaogua, Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, and Xiaoju's faces one by one with a contemptuous expression. If it were any other time, he would not dare to compete with Yi Xuehan for the Emperor's private room. He would not even dare to provoke Xiaogua and the others. But today was different. Today, LV Songliang had made friends with a powerful brother. With his big brother here, LV Songliang was not afraid of Yi Xuehan at all. In fact, his big brother had already appeared. He walked out from the back of the crowd with a cold expression. His eyes were indifferent, as if Yi Xuehan, Xiaogua, and the other experts on the imperial martial ranking were like ants before him. He threw a ring onto the table. "There are 6 million mysterious crystals inside. Take advantage of my good mood. In fact, trash like you guys can't arouse my interest at all. If Murong Zijuan and Qi Yuan were here, perhaps I would be more willing to rub elbows with them. Wait a minute. But now that you've taken the money, get the hell out of here, within 3 breaths. Who the F***ck are you? So awesome!" Xiaogua could not help but roar. This person was insufferably arrogant. Even Yi Xuehan, who was ranked 16th on the imperial martial ranking, did not take him seriously. "Ha ha ha, let me introduce you. This." LV Songliang pointed at the cold youth. "This is my sworn brother, Zhou Wuning, the son of the great Zhou Empire's virtuous prince. Currently, my brother Zhou is ranked 25th on the imperial martial ranking. Since he's competing in the southern region, you guys don't recognize him. It's normal for him to recognize you." As he spoke, LV Songliang seemed to be introducing his own father. He called Zhou Wuning affectionately and introduced him in detail. "Martial arts practitioner from the East Continent? Direct descendant of the great Zhou royal family. 25th on the imperial martial ranking." Yi Xuehan and Xiaogua were both shocked. They felt that he was pretty awesome. However, if he dared to challenge Yi Xuehan, who was ranked 25th on the imperial martial ranking, he was courting death. Perhaps he could see Xiaogua's inner thoughts. Zhou Wuning curled his lips disdainfully. "The imperial martial ranking is pure nonsense. The rankings are made up. I haven't met a true opponent in the southern region, so I'm ranked 25th. 25 have I am the strongest in the southern region." Zhou Wuning lifted his head proudly. In other words, if someone in the top 10 of the imperial martial ranking appeared in the southern region, he could not wait to kill him and replace him. It was a pity that no one was ranked high enough for him to challenge. However, there was someone called Qin Yun who seemed to have a good cultivation. However, Qin Yun was only ranked 30th. He did not pique Zhou Wuning's interest. Then Yi Xuehan and Xiaogua appeared. They were ranked 15th and 16th respectively. According to Zhou Wuning's words, if they did not know how to appreciate his kindness and scram, he did not mind taking care of both of them and raising his ranking. However, this was not a competition and he did not know if it would work. However, this was not the reason why Zhou Wuning did not make a move. What worried him the most was Xiaogua and Yi Xuehan's identities. According to the introduction of the competition, Xiaogua was the prince of the Xiliang Silk Nation. Yi Xuehan was the son of a wealthy merchant in the northern Yan. The merchant was extremely wealthy. Both of them were heavily protected by the Shao clan in Daliao and were considered super aristocrats. If Zhou Wuning provoked them in private, he might be disqualified from the competition, even though his status was not low. However, Zhou Wuning did not want to take the risk. He could only throw out 6 million Xian crystals and tell Qin Hao and his group to scram. Pa, 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 pa. However, at this moment, there was the sound of rings dropping. Qin Hao waved his hand and about 20 rings rolled to Zhou Wuning's feet. They seemed to be very precious. 20 space rings. There are about 60 million Xian crystals in them. Pick them up and they get out. After Qin Hao finished speaking, he picked up the flagon and poured some wine into his cup. He brought it to his lips elegantly and took a sip. Well, good wine. Boom! Everyone felt as if they were struck by lightning. He threw out more than 20 space rings at once. Even Yi Xuehan, as the crown prince, did not dare to be so extravagant. Moreover, there were 60 million Xian crystals in the rings. It was 10 times more than what Zhou Wuning could throw out. It was simply, haha, don't be surprised. Now, besides money, I only have money. Qin Hao smiled. I have all the space rings of all the warriors in the northern division. To be honest, 20 of them are a piece of cake. I don't care. I don't care about the Xian crystals either. After all, they belong to others. After speaking, Qin Hao turned around and looked at Zhou Wuning following his aura. Before I get angry, get out in 3 breaths. It's simply so cool. No wonder you're my idol. Once again, Xiao Ju witnessed Qin Hao acting cool. He was really fascinated. Look, even when his idol told others to get out, he still had a smile on his face. His smile seemed gentle, but it hid a murderous aura. It had the effect of making the enemy absent-minded. No, I must firmly remember this smile. Xiao Zhou had learned to act like Qin Hao again. You! Zhou Wuning was so angry that his nose was almost crooked to his face. His eyes were burning with rage. He was so angry that he could not speak. Who the hell are you? At this time, LV Songliang glared at Qin Hao. If Qin Hao had not thrown out the 20 space rings, he would not have known that there was a nobody in Yi Xuehan's group. Me? Haha, I'm from Suzhou of the Su family of the Yu state, a vassal state of the northern Qi kingdom. My name is Su Hao, and I'm ranked 672 on the imperial martial arts list. Qin Hao replied gracefully. His tone was contemptuous. It was as if LV Songliang and Zhou Wuning were nothing in front of him. Go to hell. With a roar, Zhou Wuning attacked fiercely. He was worried about the identities of Yi Xuehan and Xiaogua. But Qin Hao was only from a small country under the name of Northern Qi. He was in the 600th or 700th place on the imperial martial ranking list. How dare he challenge him? Chapter 963. Like a gust of wind, Zhou Wuning rushed towards Qin Hao. I'll treat you to a drink. Qin Hao slapped the wine cup with the back of his hand. The wine cup in front of him spun like a top and crashed towards Zhou Wuning. Zhou Wuning punched out and turned the flying wine cup into powder. The wine was also evaporated by the force of his fist. However, his body was suddenly blocked. He was stopped in place by the wine cup that Qin Hao threw at him. His palm was still in pain from the shock. "You have some skills." A trace of surprise flashed across Zhou Wuning's face. He had underestimated Qin Hao. "Surnamed Zhou, if there's no water in your brain, I'll give you a piece of advice. Scram back to where you came from." Openly attacking a member of the royal family in the bustling area of the imperial city, aren't you afraid of being disqualified? Qin Hao turned his head and looked straight at the other party. This was not only what Zhou Wuning was worried about, but also what Qin Hao was worried about. Being disqualified because of a private fight was really a bit unjust. Ha ha ha, what qualifications? I am qualified. I am the law. My aunt is a concubine of the Minister of State Affairs. With my aunt's husband's protection, who dares to revoke my LV Songliang's qualification? Who dares to disqualify my big brother Zhou Wuning? LV Songliang proudly raised his nose and pointed at Yi Shuihan. I must occupy the Emperor's private room. Today you have to scram. If you don't scram, I'll beat you until you scram. If you're not convinced, you can King bite me. I like to cause trouble, I just want to be beaten. In short, I don't like you. Moo. LV Songliang had not finished speaking. Suddenly, an angry bison roared like thunder. Xiaogua's entire body crashed into LV Songliang's arms. Like a cannonball, he smashed through the wall with his body. He crashed all the way from the top floor of the drunken immortal pavilion to the bottom floor. In the end, he crashed heavily into the crowd in the hall. The moment he flew up, LV Songliang also let out a hoarse scream of his anus being broken. The Herculean bull devil physique was so powerful that Xiaogua had broken at least half of his bones. Beat him up. Beat him up until his mother can't recognize him. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. Xiaogua stepped on LV Songliang's head with one foot and shouted in the direction of the Emperor room on the top floor. Yi Wuhan, Yi Shuihan, Little Nine, and the others immediately made their moves. Bang! Bang! Two loud sounds rang out. Almost at the same time, Yi Shuihan and Zhou Wuling penetrated through the roof of the Emperor's private room. Their Tao Master-level aura surged and emitted a dazzling purple light. They were suspended in the night sky of the imperial city, facing each other. The crowd below immediately turned into a mess. The troops that LV Songliang and Zhou Wu could bring along had become one with Yi Wuhan and the others. Streaks of Yuan Qi flashed as the sword light slashed out. In the blink of an eye, the drunken immortal pavilion was riddled with holes. The martial artists who were drinking and having fun in the restaurant were quite shocked because of this. However, when they saw the situation clearly, it immediately attracted great interest. Look, the two figures confronting each other in the air are Zhou Wuling, an expert from the Southern Division, and Yi Shuihan from the Northern Division. Why are they fighting? Who knows? Could it be that the Northern Division is bullying the Southern Division? Bullying? It's clear that it's your Southern Division who is bullying us Northern Division. Brothers, beat them up. As long as they are from the Southern Division, beat them to death. The martial artists who were drinking tea in the restaurant were also involved in this life-and-death dispute because of the regional issue. They were confused and inexplicably involved. The scene suddenly became even more chaotic. The luxurious drunken immortal pavilion was almost turned into ruins overnight. The owner of the restaurant knelt on the street with a bitter face and cried to the sky. He could not afford to offend either Zhou Wuling or Yi Shuihan, let alone go forward to mediate the fight. Both of them were venerable-level geniuses. If he approached them, the owner would immediately be torn apart by the venerable-level primordial qi. The battle started quickly and ended quickly as well. To be honest, the Southern Division contestants led by Zhou Wuling and LV Songliang's subordinates were not mediocre. They were all ranked on the Emperor Martial list. Unfortunately, they had encountered people stronger than them. Yi Wuhan, Xiao Jiu, and Chen Wanqin only used the time it took to brew a cup of tea to beat the 20 or so opponents to the ground. LV Songliang was in the hall of the restaurant, being slapped by Xiaogua again and again. As he slapped, Xiaogua spat out saliva and roared crazily, saying that he was teaching LV Songliang how to behave. As for Qin Hao, he sat quietly in his original position, drinking wine in a relaxed manner. There was no need for him to make a move. Occasionally, two of LV Songliang's subordinates, who thought that Qin Hao was easy to bully, would rush forward to take advantage of him. In the end, they would be crippled by Qin Hao's finger. At the moment, Yi Wuhan and Xiao Jiu, who had dealt with the small fries, folded their arms and looked up at the sky with interest. They wanted to see if Zhou Wuling or Yi Xuehan was stronger. A third-level Yuan Venerate with a Source Spirit. Xuehan has met his match, Qin Hao said without looking up. He was still pouring wine for himself. A third-level Yuan Venerate or an Essence Soul Martialist. Chen Wanqin frowned. Zhou Wuling was indeed not simple. However, Xuehan is only a second-level Yuan Venerate. He is one level weaker than his opponent. Xuehan's Source Spirit is of a higher grade than his. If the two of them really fight it out, Zhou Wuling will definitely not survive. However, it won't be easy for Xuehan to win. Let's wait and see. After Qin Hao finished speaking, he picked up the wine glass and took another sip. The great Zhou Empire of the East Continent? It seemed like Zhou Wuling, who had come from the East Continent to participate in the competition, was the descendant of an old friend of his. Qin Hao couldn't help but grit his teeth when he mentioned this old friend of his. 600 years ago, the great Zhou Empire's ruler, Zhou Wendi, had participated in the Nine Heavens Gods punishment array incident in the Burial Valley. Zhou Wendi was one of the 12 strongest Yuan emperors in the Divine Wilderness continent. He was much older than Qin Hao and Zhan Wu and could be considered their senior. However, given his cultivation base as a level 8 Yuan emperor, this old fellow wouldn't die in just 600 years. This feud naturally had to be settled with him. Since his descendant had come knocking on his door, Qin Hao definitely had no need to let Zhou Wuling return to the East Continent alive. Yi Xuehan? Do you really think you can beat me? In the night sky, Zhou Wuling's entire body was wrapped in a strong venerable level aura. The aura caused ripples in the void as he spoke to Yi Xuehan ferociously. Yi Xuehan stretched out a little finger. Winning or losing doesn't matter, but you deserve to die for making my boss unhappy. After that, he poked his little finger downward. Goshawk. Zhou Wuling roared angrily and a 200-feet-long goshawk phantom appeared behind him. The phantom shone with a monstrous light as it flapped its iron-like wings and let out a ferocious screech. Zhou Wuling didn't dare to be careless when fighting with a genius like Yi Xuehan. He revealed his own origin spirit. Water God descends. Yi Xuehan also shouted. He raised his hands above his head. Whoosh! A bright mercury-like brilliance poured down from the top of the sky like the Milky Way across the night sky. It was quite spectacular and caused the people below to exclaim. This ball of mercury-like brilliance seemed to have spirituality. It twined around Yi Xuehan's body and was incomparably lively like an elf. Eagle strikes 3,000 miles, go! Zhou Wuling raised one arm high and waved it fiercely at Yi Xuehan's position. Chapter 964. Merciless Flowing Water. Yi Xuehan raised his arm, and a turbulent wave appeared in front of him and swept toward the eagle clone. Bang! The two clashed, and the eagle clone shattered and dissipated along with the wave. The two were actually evenly matched. Not bad, Zhou Wuling said in surprise. In the Emperor Martial Tournament, apart from Murong Zijuan, Qi Yuan, and Duan Ziju, there's also a rare opponent like you. My battle intent has been ignited. Soul absorption. Zhou Wuning's face was filled with excitement. He opened his arms, and the eagle immediately entered his body. Zhou Wuning's body immediately underwent an earth-shattering change. His face turned into the face of an eagle. His nose was long and curved, and a pair of huge wings grew out of his back. His arms were stronger than before, and his hands formed sharp claws. "I'll crush your little head." With a crazed expression, Zhou Wuning transformed into an eagle man and flapped his huge wings. "Bird man!" Yi Xuehan snorted in disdain. He raised his head and opened his arms. Soul absorption. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The silver water circling around him suddenly disappeared into Yi Xuehan's body. A layer of dazzling silver light erupted from his body, and even the moon paled in comparison. The light illuminated the night sky and was exceptionally spectacular. After the light dissipated, a set of sacred mercury armor covered Yi Xuehan's body, making his body look even more slender and well-proportioned. Many of the young girls watching the battle below were mesmerized. At this moment, Yi Xuehan looked sacred, as if a divine soldier had descended to the mortal world. Ordinary. Whoosh. Immediately after, a cold light flashed in his palm as he swung his saber at Zhou Wuning. The saber light that suddenly appeared was Yi Longyuan's saber when he was at his prime. It was a venerable artifact and was very powerful. The 50-meter-long saber could be long or short, and it could shrink or stretch. Zhou Wuning was completely caught off guard and was almost hit by Yi Xuehan. He was so frightened that he quickly dodged to the side. "What a powerful weapon!" Zhou Wuning exclaimed. Fortunately, they were not in a competition. Zhou Wuning was not surprised that Yi Xuehan was an Essence Soul Realm cultivator. However, he did not expect Yi Xuehan to have a venerable artifact. It seemed that this son of a great merchant had an extraordinary trump card. "You have a saber, but I'm not empty-handed either. Watch my sky-shaking divine hammer!" Zhou Wuning roared. His two eagle claws stretched forward, and a 3-meter-long fierce hammer was tightly held in his palm. He picked up the 3-meter-long hammer and swung it towards Yi Xuehan's head, leaving behind a pitch-black shadow. Yi Xuehan was not afraid at all. Holding his saber, he charged forward. The two of them were in a stalemate in an instant. They fought fiercely in the air, causing sparks to fly one after another. Every collision seemed to be extremely heavy. It was as if waves of thunder were shaking the void. If they were careless, no matter who it was, they might lose their ability to fight. The cultivators watching the battle below had a feast for their eyes. They had witnessed in advance how terrifying the top geniuses on the Emperor Martial Roll were. They calculated in their hearts, no matter if they faced Yi Xuehan or Zhou Wuning, they would not be able to take a single blow. Suddenly, many cultivators below felt inferior. Zhou Wuning does have some skills. He is evenly matched with Prince Xuehan. The cultivators of the East Continent really live up to their reputation. Yi Wuhan looked up. He was very clear that Yi Xuehan was stronger than him. In other words, if he were Zhou Wuning's opponent, he would not be able to defeat him. Xiaoju nodded. This person's hammer technique is very fierce. The goshawk source spirit has increased his speed. He is fast and fierce. His cultivation realm is so high. If I use Nightmare Knight, I'm afraid it will be shattered by his hammer. In front of absolute strength, Xiaojiu, who was at the king stage, was not Zhou Wuning's opponent. Chen Wanqin did not say anything, but her eyes showed that she was afraid of Zhou Wuning's strength. "Brother Han, what's wrong with you? We've fought for 80 rounds and you still haven't killed him. If you can't do it, let me do it." Xiaogua stepped on LV Songliang and roared with dissatisfaction. LV Songliang was beaten half to death. His teeth had all fallen out and his face was swollen like a pig's head. He did not dare to make a sound. Yi Xuehan was also helpless against Xiaogua's dissatisfaction. If he used the ultimate move of the water god body, He had an 80% chance of defeating Zhou Wuning or even killing him. But the price was too high. Once he used the ultimate move, Yi Xuehan would be in a weakened state for a long time. He would not be able to continue participating in the next half of the battle. If he did not use his ultimate move, he would not be able to defeat Zhou Wuning. It was simply, his heart was sullen. Xuehan stepped back. At this moment Qin Hao moved. If they continued to fight, it would be difficult to determine the winner. Qin Hao was a little sleepy and wanted to go back to sleep. He slowly stood up and a jade-like green sword appeared in his palm. The edge of the sword was spitting out dark red tongues of flame. Under the stunned expressions of Xiaogua, Yi Xuehan, and Little Nine, Qin Hao's right arm was covered with a layer of surging scales. He aimed at Zhou Wuning, who was fighting with Yi Xuehan in the air, and fiercely slashed his sword. Flame Dragon Sun Chases, swish! The sword light flashed out and pierced through the night, leaving behind a scorching blood-red magma afterimage. When the sword light brushed past Yi Xuehan's body and arrived in front of Zhou Wuning, it turned into a 500-foot-long winding fire dragon. It was ferocious, terrifying, and domineering. It spat out a fierce breath on Zhou Wuning's body. It was the Red Lotus Soul Fire. Dig! Zhou Wuning was suddenly hit and was sent flying. He couldn't hold the big hammer in his hand and helplessly threw it to the ground. After it fell, the big hammer smashed to death an unlucky martial artist who was watching the battle. At the same time, Zhou Wuning's mouth spat out blood. The Red Lotus Soul Fire wrapped around his body, and he let out a heart-wrenching howl like a ghost. What was more serious was that on his left shoulder, there was a sword wound so deep that the bone could be seen. The sword wound almost took off his arm. Fortunately, he retreated quickly and relied on the power of his wings to reduce the power of the sword. However, Qin Hao's Flame Dragon Sun Chases caused both fire and sword damage. It was enough to leave a heavy injury on Zhou Wuning. Boom! Zhou Wuning, who was on fire, was slashed down from the sky by Qin Hao's sword and smashed into the ground. The wide road was smashed into a crater by him. A carriage that was running was unfortunately smashed into pieces at the same time. The carriage and the horse turned into two pools of blood. I seem to have implicated an innocent person. I'm really sorry. Qin Hao sighed. After the bloody battle at Blue River Mountain, his strength had increased by several times. He didn't control it well and used too much force. However, Xiaogua, Yi Wuhan, and Little Nine opened their mouths wide and stared at the falling Zhou Wuning. They couldn't say a word. That was a ruthless character who fought with Yi Xuehan for almost 100 rounds and didn't fall into a disadvantage at all. He couldn't even withstand a single strike from Qin Hao. At this moment, everyone looked at Qin Hao as if they were looking at a monster. Even Chen Wanqin couldn't help but say abnormal. Ah! Sir, you died so miserably. At this moment, a group of sorrowful cries could be heard on the street. Looking in the direction of the sound, one would find a group of Daliao's elite soldiers kneeling at the edge of the crater where Zhou Wuning fell. They were facing the broken wreckage of the carriage under Zhou Wuning's body, as well as the two lumps of meat in the crater that couldn't be distinguished from human or horse. The mud let out a deep mourning. Immediately after, a captain-like peak king-ranked warrior pulled out a saber from his waist with a swoosh. His eyes were wide open as he roared at Zhou Wuning, who was seriously injured in the pit. Men, chop this despicable spy who murdered the Minister of State into meat paste and dig him up. Chapter 965. The Minister of State was summoned by Shao Yi. After finishing his work in the Imperial Palace, he was about to return home. He happened to pass by the Drunken Immortal Pavilion, but he was so unlucky. Minister of State? Is he my uncle? Oh my God, no way. LV Songliang, whose face was bruised and swollen, got up from Xiaogua's feet, rushed out of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion, and came to the scene of the crater on the street. after seeing the bloody mud in the crater. Plop! He knelt on the ground, with tears and snot coming out of his eyes. Although the two piles of bloody mud were beyond recognition, it was impossible to recognize whether they were still the Minister of State. But LV Songliang was very familiar with the captain next to him. It was the captain of his uncle's personal guard, Captain Wu. Thinking of the clothes in the pit, on a piece of rag embroidered with 5 golden threads, this was the high-ranking official's uniform of Daliao, which symbolized the status of the highest administrator of the Ministry of State. It was undoubtedly his uncle's clothes. LV Songliang had seen many of them. This time. "Aya, uncle, how did you turn into such a miserable appearance? Can you still be saved? It's so painful." LV Songliang wailed and pounded his chest with his fists regretfully. "Who the hell are you?" Captain Wu was facing a formidable enemy. He pointed his knife at the pig-headed young man who suddenly appeared, but did not recognize that the guy with a bloody nose and swollen face was LV Songliang. "Captain Wu, I'm LV Songliang." LV Songliang turned his head and cried, "Young Master LV?" Captain Wu was stunned. He looked at the other party, confirmed it several times, and nodded. It was the young master of the LV family. Then Captain Wu stepped forward, patted LV Songliang on the shoulder, and sighed. "My condolences, your uncle has passed away." Captain Wu also did not expect that the nephew of the Minister of State would appear so suddenly. LV Songliang came just after the unfortunate accident. He was really a thoughtful person. Although LV Songliang's aunt was only one of the many concubines of the Minister of State. Then Captain Wu looked at Zhou Wuning in the pit, and his anger burned again. He shouted, "Come, take down the murderer who assassinated the Minister of State." "The assassin who assassinated my uncle?" LV Songliang looked at the person in the pit. It was Zhou Wuning. "That's impossible, right? Brother Zhou is my friend. Why would you harm my uncle?" LV Songliang said in disbelief. But Captain Wu's men jumped into the pit one after another and surrounded Zhou Wuning. "All of you, get out of my way!" With a thunderous roar, Zhou Wuning, who was heavily injured, exploded with a layer of ferocious venerable-level aura. He sent Daliao's elite soldiers, who were surrounding him, flying away as if they were dried twigs. The impact caused everyone to spit out blood and fly 100 meters away. It was extremely shocking. While using his vital qi to send Captain Wu's subordinates flying, Zhou Wuning also dispersed the red lotus fire on his body and jumped out of the pit. At this moment, his skin and flesh were split open and his body was covered in a charred smell. He pointed to the roof of drunken immortal pavilion and roared crazily, "I was wronged. You despicable and shameless bastard. You sneak-attacked me while I was fighting with Yi Shuihan. I'll kill you." After roaring, he gathered his qi and was about to fly to the roof to find Qin Hao for revenge. Suddenly, an unbearable burning pain spread rapidly in his abdomen, eroding his limbs and bones. Zhou Wuning's legs went soft, and he knelt on the ground powerlessly. His body trembled incessantly and cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just at this moment, 4 dazzling streams of light flew out from the direction of the imperial palace. They cut through the sky and instantly landed above drunken immortal pavilion. This aura was as heavy as a mountain. As soon as it appeared, it immediately intimidated the people and warriors on the street. Even Captain Wu knelt down towards the sky. The 4 guards of Guang Wenjinwu? On the roof, Qin Hao felt that these 4 auras were very familiar. They were the 4 statue knights who accompanied Xiao Han when he was hunting in Lan Chuan. "No, it's not them." In the next moment, Qin Hao shook his head and denied his guess. He was wrong. These 4 people were not Guang Wenjinwu. The other party's aura was too strong. Guang Wenjinwu was far from reaching this level. "General Xiaoming, I beg you to make a decision for us and kill the murderer who assassinated my lord." Minqing Prophet, one of the 4 strongest guards under Xiao Yi, arrived. Captain Wu knelt on the ground and cried. "Captain Wu, what's going on?" Xiao Ming asked. This was a middle-aged warrior who looked to be in his 40s. He looked down coldly and there was an emperor-level aura spreading around him. The power of Qin Hao's sword was so great that it alarmed Emperor Xiao in the palace. Emperor Xiao ordered them to come out and patrol. He didn't expect to meet the personal guard captain of the Minister of State here. Xiao Ming actually felt quite strange. After all, the Minister of State had just left the Imperial Palace. By the way, where was the Minister of State? Xiao Ming looked around Captain Wu and didn't see the Minister of State. "My lord, he..." Captain Wu pointed to the bloody mud in the pit with grief and indignation. "He's dead." "What?" Xiao Ming's expression was very shocked. The Minister of State was an important minister that Emperor Xiao relied on. This little old man didn't have any special skills and was just an ordinary person. However, he was very smart and had a glib tongue. He handled all kinds of relationships smoothly. In terms of internal affairs, he was indeed very capable. This old man had a bad habit of being lecherous and often took concubines. He especially looked for 17 or 18-year-old girls to do things with. However, he was a man. He worked too hard for the country and wanted to relieve some pressure. It was completely understandable. What shocked Xiao Ming was that the Minister of State was dead. Looking at the pile of mud in the pit, Xiao Ming's expression was extremely ugly. "The murderer is this person." As he spoke, Captain Wu also pushed Zhou Wuning out. "Young man, how dare you?" Xiao Ming shouted. He stretched out his right hand and a golden emperor-level aura gathered in his palm. If he hadn't noticed that Zhou Wuning was a contestant in the Imperial Martial Competition, Xiao Ming would have slapped him to death. He didn't make a move because he wanted an explanation. After all, Xiao Ming knew that among the contestants in the Imperial Martial Competition, there were some people that even he couldn't afford to offend. "I was wronged." Of course, Zhou Wuning wouldn't admit it. No matter how pretentious he was, he couldn't have attacked the Daliao's Minister of State. That would be no different from an idiot. Then, he explained what had happened in detail to General Xiao Ming. Moreover, LV Songliang had added details to prove his innocence. It was enough to prove that he had done it unintentionally. Oh! After hearing Zhou Wuning's explanation, Xiao Ming looked coldly at the top of the drunken immortal pavilion. The real culprit was there. "Senior, I don't agree with Zhou Wuning's explanation. First of all, the drunken immortal pavilion's imperial private room was reserved by the Xiliang Tuli Kingdom's prince. I don't know why, but LV Songliang suddenly dragged Zhou Wuning here to provoke us. In the private room, he beat up the Tuli Kingdom's prince for no reason and seriously injured him. I couldn't stand it and was forced to retaliate. I was just defending myself." Qin Hao said. "What a joke. No matter what, he couldn't take the blame for the Minister of State's death." Chapter 966. You're talking nonsense. We didn't take it by force. We paid. We just politely asked you to get out of the way. Moreover, we weren't the ones who beat them up. Instead, the ones who were beaten up were all my men. LV Songliang spat out his saliva and roared loudly. He was angry. "Look at the injuries all over my body." He then looked at the warriors lying all over the floor of the drunken, immortal pavilion. They were all LV Songliang's men and Zhou Wuning's contestants from the southern region. But he neglected one point. Xiaogua was a very smart person. Almost as soon as Qin Hao opened his mouth, he knew what he should do. He swept his big eyes and randomly squeezed out his palm, crushing a piece of flesh from one of LV Songliang's men who had been knocked unconscious. Flesh and blood. He picked up the flesh and blood and rubbed it on his face and body, making it look as if he had been stabbed hundreds of times. Then, Xiaogua held his stomach and kept rolling in the drunken immortal pavilion, wailing all the way to the street. "My leg is broken, and my intestines were torn out by Zhou Wuning. I really don't understand why young Master Lu would do such a thing to this prince. How did we, the people of the spinning silk country, let you down? If it wasn't for the help of Yi Xuehan, the son of a wealthy northern yen merchant, I wouldn't have been able to escape death today. Why do you want to kill me so ruthlessly? But no matter what, your plot won't succeed. The warriors of the spinning silk country will never watch their prince be bullied for no reason. Just as Xiaogua finished speaking, there was a loud rumble. From all directions of the drunken immortal pavilion, hundreds of mighty and strong men wearing pitch-black heavy armor suddenly rushed out. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall, with a strong back and a bear's waist, holding a ferocious mace in their hands. As soon as they appeared, their arrogant aura shocked everyone. These big men waved their maces, scaring the surrounding people. They rushed to Qi Xiaogua's side and firmly protected their prince with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. These people were, of course, the raging bear army that had been lying in ambush in advance. Daliao people, you've gone too far. Look at how badly our fragile little prince has been injured. If you don't give us an explanation, I don't care if you are the Daliao Empire, Northern Yen or Northern Qi. We will declare war on you, and we will fight to the death. In addition, the Silk Kingdom will take back the Xiliang silk cloth we just gave to your Princess Jingyue and the 200,000 Thunder Beast mounts signed with your Emperor Shao. The commanders of the ferocious bear army, who were pretending to be generals of the Silk Nation, roared. Needless to say, when these boorish men put on an act, they were practically taught by Qi Xiaogua. As they roared, their eyes were bloodshot, as if they had been greatly wronged, as if the great Liao people were bullying them, the honest people of the Silk Nation. I can vouch for this. It was LV Songliang and Zhou Wuning from the East Continent who provoked us first. We were forced to defend ourselves. Yi Xuehan withdrew. The water god descends into his body and returned to his original appearance. He continued, besides, I feel that the security of Daliao is indeed a big problem. Therefore, I will advise my father to cancel the 100 million celestial stones and 500 million celestial land. Celestial stones. This. Generals of the Silk Nation, please calm down. Young Master Xuehan, please calm down. I believe that this matter is not the fault of Prince Xiaogua and you. Faced with these aggressive men and Yi Xuehan's testimony, Xiao Ming was terrified. It was not that he was afraid of them. In fact, these hundreds of ferocious bear army soldiers combined were not even enough to withstand a single slap from Xiao Ming. More importantly, the Silk Nation had signed many contracts with the Daliao Empire. Among them, there were 2 items that Emperor Shao and Princess Jingyue liked. One was the snow silk cloth. The snow silk cloth was produced in Western Liang. Xiao Han had special feelings for Western Liang. The other item was a war horse specially bred in Western Liang. Although it was called a war horse, it was much stronger than an ordinary horse. It was a type of war beast with a particularly large body and a powerful charging force on the battlefield. Emperor Shao attached great importance to it and was preparing to train a group of heavy cavalry. If the silk business and war beast business were to be blocked because of this, both Emperor Shao and Xiao Han would be angry. Besides, Yi Xuehan's father, the legendary rich man who suddenly appeared in the Northern Yen, had said that he would provide Emperor Shao with 100 million celestial stones and 500 million earth stones for military expenses. Xiao Ming did not want to let this military fund go to waste. If anyone had to take the blame for the Minister of State, it could only be Zhou Wuning from the East Continent. Oh my God, is my uncle's life not worth more than a war horse and a piece of silk cloth? Xiao Ming, you are helping outsiders and not your relative. We are all Daliao's people. What the hell are you doing? LV Songliang roared like a madman. He was so angry that he lost his mind. Xiao Ming's name. Bang. At this moment, a huge mace was swung at him. LV Song Liang felt his head become heavy, and then his body floated into the clouds. He was sent flying by a warrior of the Furious Bear army. Who do you think you are? Get out of my way! The warrior of the Furious Bear army grumbled unreasonably. His body faintly emitted the aura of an inferior venerable. Xiao Ming saw that the son of a bureaucrat from Daliao was beaten up in public by the people of the 2C kingdom. Well, even though he saw it, Xiao Ming pretended that nothing happened. He waved his hand and said, "Men, take Zhou Wuning to the military prison and disqualify him from the competition. This kind of contestant who attacked an honored guest from another country is not qualified to participate in the competition held for the princess. Also, find someone to send a letter to the great Zhou dynasty in the East Continent. Come and pay the ransom. Otherwise, Zhou Wuning, you will spend the rest of your life in the prison of Daliao." No, Zhou Wuning felt as if he had fallen into an abyss. He had come from the East Continent because of Xiao Han's beauty. He had not even seen the princess before he was disqualified. The blow was too great. He had lost the face of the great Zhou dynasty. He did not have the face to go back. He frantically circulated his primordial qi to resist. With a wave of Xiao Ming's hand, Zhou Wuning's primordial qi was dispersed. He was paralyzed on the ground like mud. Then, a group of imperial guards rushed over and took Zhou Wuning to the prison. I don't accept this. I want to see my elder brother. I want to see Zhou Wudao, who is ranked 4th on the Emperor Martial ranking. I want to see my elder brother." As he was taken away, Zhou Wuning was so angry that his mouth was filled with blood. He kept shouting hoarsely, "Whoosh!" At this moment, a dazzling light screen suddenly flashed in the dark night sky. The light screen was filled with the names of the contestants. As the name list kept rolling, it stopped at Zhou Wuning's position. His name was erased by an external force and was replaced by the words Su Hao. He was ranked 25th Pu. When he saw this scene, Zhou Wuning could no longer hold on. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Such an accident happened. At the same time, the Emperor Martial ranking list flashed in Qin Hao's mind. He saw the change in the rankings. To be honest, he had never expected Zhou Wuning to give him such a big gift. Originally, Qin Hao had despised his low ranking. Now, he had jumped to the top 50 and was ranked 25th. Chapter 967. The attack on the Minister of State came to an end. Afterward, the royal family announced that the competition would be suspended for 5 days to mourn. After all, it was a huge blow to Emperor Xiao to lose an important Minister of State Affairs. However, judging from the fact that he had promoted Qin Hao's ranking, it seemed like he was somewhat biased. Everyone knew how important the Minister of State was to an empire. If it had been any other emperor, they definitely wouldn't have easily appeased their anger over a war beast or a few pieces of silk. On the other hand, not only had Emperor Xiao not pursued the matter, but he had also promoted Qin Hao's ranking fairly. There must be something fishy going on. Many people guessed that Qin Hao might have a tyrannical force backing him, so strong that even Emperor Xiao feared him. But what exactly was the real reason? No one knew. That day was the day of the semifinals. Once the contestants passed the semifinals, the 4 competition zones would merge into one arena and enter the final showdown. This was the moment that millions of people in Daliao were looking forward to. The importance of the semi-finals to the contestants was self-evident. However, only a few people would emerge victorious. Early in the morning, the Qin family experts disguised as subordinates of the Silk Nation's prince carried the 9-dragon palanquin from the Good Man Tavern to the arena. The Su family members sighed as they watched the domineering palanquin rise into the sky. They were no longer worried about when Qin Hao would be eliminated. Instead, they began to calculate what rank Qin Hao would obtain in the final showdown. After all, Qin Hao had defeated Zhou Wushang with a single strike and taken his name. This proved that Qin Hao's cultivation base was very strong. This terrifying cultivation base had far exceeded the expectations of the Great Elder and the others. The more Big Head Su thought about it, the more frightened he became. During the battle with the One-Blade Stream, he had thought that Qin Hao was only a high-level Yuan monarch. However, when Qin Hao ranked 25th on the Emperor Martial list, Big Head Su was shocked to realize that Qin Hao had the qualifications to rival a Yuan Venerate. Therefore, the Su family members weren't worried that Qin Hao would be eliminated. An unfathomable monster like Qin Hao wouldn't be eliminated so easily. What they were concerned about now was whether Qin Hao could enter the top 10, or even the top 3. The prizes for the top 3 of the Martial Emperor ranking were unimaginably bountiful. They could help a clan rise instantly. They remembered that Qin Hao had said that he would give all the prizes from the competition to the Su family. To be precise, it was for Su alone. However, giving it to Su was giving it to the Su family. Therefore, they were eager for Qin Hao to enter the top 10. It would be best if the heavens had eyes and let Mr. enter the top 3. Once Mr. entered the top 3, the Su family would be rich. They arrived at the arena. As always, the stadium was bustling with activity. The contestants were rubbing their hands and doing warm-up exercises in every corner of the stadium. They were still very confident in themselves for the upcoming semifinals. When Qin Hao arrived at the arena in the 9 Dragons palanquin, he caused quite a stir. However, as the palanquin landed between Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan, the martial artists could only stare curiously, none of them daring to approach. "Big brother! Ahem! Mr. Su, you're here." Xiaogua lifted the curtain of the palanquin for Qin Hao. Then, he waved his hand, and 4 Qin family guards carried the palanquin, turned around, and left. "Hello, Mr. Hello, Mr. Su." Yi Shuihan, Chen Wanqin, and the others all went forward to greet Qin Hao, pretending that they had just met him. "Hello, everyone." Qin Hao smiled gently and spread his consciousness to sense the layout of the arena. He remembered that when he was at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion, Yi Shuihan had said that the semifinals would be different and would not be a competition between contestants. At this moment, when Qin Hao spread out his spiritual sense, he discovered that the 10 dueling arenas had all disappeared. Yi Shuihan's words were true. "Big brother, I've found out that today's competition is to fight with an iron-spine demonic lizard. You can only advance to the finals if you can last for 10 breaths," Xiaogua said with a grave expression. Withstanding the iron-spine demonic lizard's attack for 10 breaths was enough to qualify for the finals. However, there were not many contestants who could really do it. The Northern Competition Zone had a total of 50 contestants, and there were close to 7,000 contestants left. Not to mention 50 contestants, even 30 of them might not make it. Iron Spine Demonic Lizard? Qin Hao frowned slightly. This was a level 9 demonic beast. It was the strongest demonic beast, and was said to be invincible below the level of a sacred beast. However, it was not even comparable to the trashiest sacred beast. Its combat power was only comparable to a sky origin ancestor. Withstanding its attack for 10 breaths was something that even Su Zhu, who had eaten an explosive yuan pill, could do. The remaining 6,000 to 7,000 contestants in the Northern Competition Zone were at least mid-level sky origin monarch. It would be easy for them to advance. However, Xiaogua's tone sounded like it would be very difficult. "Big brother, you don't know this. Under normal circumstances, any of the contestants present would be able to kill the Iron Spine Demonic Lizard with a flick of their fingers. However, this time, the organizer has suppressed the contestants' cultivation base to that of a sky origin ancestor. They will fight with the Iron Spine Demonic Lizard." Xiaogua's face contorted as he spoke. Suppressing his cultivation base to that of a sky origin ancestor, and fighting with a demonic beast like the iron-spined demonic lizard made even him a little fearful. After all, the iron-spined demonic lizard was known as a quasi-sacred beast. The defensive power of its iron skin was terrifying. Without special weapons, one would not even be able to penetrate its skin, let alone kill it. Moreover, its explosive power was shocking. When it moved, it would be as fast as lightning. Some of the more special demonic lizards had some innate abilities, such as the ability to breathe fire. Even if Tsiogwa used the bull demonic body, if his cultivation base was stuck at the sky origin ancestor level, it would not be easy to kill the iron-spined demonic lizard, which was on full defense. It was even possible that Tsiogwa would be injured by the beast. I see. Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. According to this method, no more than 40 of the 6,000 to 7,000 contestants would emerge victorious. To a certain extent, the iron-spined demonic lizard possessed some of the characteristics of a sacred beast, unless the contestant had a very strong and special method. Otherwise, not to mention 10 breaths, once one's cultivation base was suppressed to the sky origin ancestor level, he would not even be able to last 5 breaths. It would not be strange if he died at the hands of the iron-spined demonic lizard. Although it's troublesome, it shouldn't be difficult for us. Qin Hao relaxed his brows and smiled. After all, Tsiogwa and the rest all had source spirit. Qin Hao himself was in existence with 3 souls in one body. Even if his cultivation base was suppressed to the sky origin ancestor level, it would not be difficult for him to kill the iron-spined demonic lizard. That's right. Yi Shuihan also raised his head arrogantly. As he raised his head, he saw a familiar face. That face was so gloomy that it could drip blood as it gradually approached. It was LV Songliang. Yi Shuihan, Tsiogwa, and you, Su Hao, who stole my big brother Zhou's ranking. We finally meet again. The heavens have eyes. Chapter 968. LV Songliang? Yi Shuihan stared at him in surprise. This fellow shouldn't have appeared before him. Zhou Wuning had been accused by the royal family of accidentally killing the Minister of State. LV Songliang, who was the nephew of the Minister of State, could be considered Zhou Wuning's accomplice to a certain extent. Thus, he should have been taken away for interrogation as well. How could he still appear in the arena? Don't look at me so curiously. To tell you the truth, I'm not the only one who is fine. Big brother Zhou has also been acquitted. LV Songliang forced a smile and deliberately flaunted to everyone. Zhou Wuning's identity was special, and his elder brother was the top powerhouse of the eastern region. His name was Zhou Wudao. Besides Murong Zijuan and Qi Yuan, Zhou Wudao was one of the top 10 people on the Emperor Martial list whose name had been hidden. Moreover, he was ranked as high as 4th place. From this, one could see how terrifying his cultivation was. Zhou Wudao stepped forward and quickly brought Zhou Wuning out of prison. Big brother Zhou is not only out, but he is also participating in the southern region's competition. You guys don't know how powerful his elder brother, Zhou Wudao, is. You guys will be scared shitless if I tell you. Zhou Wudao is a 4th level Yuan Venerate. He is a peerless genius at the Yuan Venerate level. Furthermore, he is far from an ordinary 4th level Yuan Venerate. Ha ha ha. LV Songliang laughed arrogantly as his eyes burned with the flames of war. Yi Shuihan and the others subconsciously looked at each other, each of them revealing a surprised expression. Actually, they weren't too surprised that Zhou Wuning had been acquitted. Since he was a direct descendant of the royal family of an empire in the East Continent, it was impossible for him to be locked up in Shao Yi's prison forever. It was only a matter of time before he was released. However, Zhou Wuning's elder brother, Zhou Wudao, was different. Based on LV Songliang's tone, this person was extraordinarily powerful. In fact, when they thought about the rankings on the Emperor Martial list, it was enough to see how heaven-defying Zhou Wudao's cultivation was. He was actually ranked 4th. What? You guys don't believe me? Oh, you must think that the Emperor Marshal list doesn't show the names of the top 10 experts and think that I'm lying. However, let me tell you something. Others may not see the names of the top 10 on the Emperor Marshal list, but the people on the list can see them clearly. Chu. Sir Zhou Wudao is ranked 4th. When LV Songliang saw that Qin Hao and the others did not speak, he thought that they were doubting him. When he started to explain, he raised his head as high as the sky, as if the person in 4th place was him, LV Songliang. Are you done? If there's nothing else, then get lost. Yi Shuihan waved his hand impatiently. Zhou Wuning's big brother was very valiant, which indeed surprised everyone, but it was nothing more than that. Qin Hao and the others knew very well that Zhou Wudao, who was a 4th-level Yuan venerate on the surface, might actually be in essence Soul Realm Martialist with the ability to kill opponents of a higher level. But so what? What did it have to do with him? You guys really don't know what's good for you. Provoking me, LV Songliang, is equivalent to provoking Zhou Wuning. Provoking Zhou Wuning is equivalent to provoking Zhou Wudao. I swear, the moment we enter the finals, your time of death will come. LV Songliang clenched his fists and roared hoarsely, making Qin Hao and the others feel as if they had killed his father. Get lost! Qin Hao's eyes turned cold. He had no time to deal with the clown. LV Songliang was so angry that he wanted to explode. When he thought about how Qin Hao had once cleaved Zhou Wuning down from the sky, he resisted the urge to make a move. He felt that he wasn't a match for Qin Hao. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up and he stepped aside to reveal the people standing behind him. Behind LV Songliang, there were 2 other martial artists with stiff faces that resembled a coffin. These 2 martialists were no strangers to Xiaogua and Yi Shuihan. Besides them, they were the 2 most famous martialists in the northern region. Furthermore, they were a pair of twin brothers named Tongyue and Tongyue. It was said that they had come from the southern region. Tongyue was ranked 34th on the Emperor Marshal list. Tongyue was ranked 35th on the Emperor Marshal list. He was ranked 36th, just above Yi Wuhan. Big brother Zhou Wudao originally wanted to crush you guys personally. However, in the end, he felt that small fries like you guys didn't deserve to die in his hands because you guys weren't qualified. LV Songliang waved his hand and the 2 coffin-faced cultivators of the same year and month rudely took a step forward. They blocked Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan's path, creating a hostile atmosphere. So? Qin Hao said coldly. So big brother Zhou Wudao asked me to find someone to get rid of you. Coincidentally, Tongyue and Tongyue are the most famous martialists in the northern region besides Yi Shuihan. With Tongyue and Tongyue taking action, you guys won't be able to escape this time. Yes. LV Songliang replied. You have so many brothers. Are they all born from the same litter of pigs? Qin Hao sneered disdainfully. Brat, what did you say? You're courting death. Tongyue and Tongyue were furious. Stop talking nonsense. How do you want to fight? Tell us. Xiaogua stepped forward. If they could fight, they shouldn't quarrel. Simple. LV Songliang pointed at Qin Hao. I heard that you won the spatial rings of nearly 80% of the northern region's martialists in the last match, right? Do you dare to make another bet today? What kind of bet? Qin Hao asked. It's also very simple. We'll bet that you and Tongyue can last longer in the hands of the iron-backed demonic lizard. Fighting against the iron-backed demonic lizard in the semifinals was nothing new in the ears of the Daliao officials. In fact, they all knew about it. If you can't last longer than Tongyue and Tongyue, then you bastard. You'll have to commit suicide in front of me and be buried with my uncle. Moreover, regardless of whether Yi Shuihan, Xiaogua, Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, or Hao Zhixing pass the semifinals, they can't continue. In other words, if you lose, they must voluntarily give up the next match. LV Songliang roared and asked, Do you dare? Oh, your appetite isn't small. Qin Hao sneered. Sure, but if you want me to commit suicide in front of you and all my friends to give up the match, your bet shouldn't be mediocre. You have good taste. LV Songliang couldn't help but praise Qin Hao. Then, with a flash of brilliance, a pair of mighty pestles appeared in his hands. The pestles were carved with a pair of blue luan and a fire phoenix, as well as a bottle of seemingly extraordinary pills. Blue luan demon subduing pestles, grade, 8th grade venerable weapon. Zifu Xuanzhen Dan, grade, 8th grade high-grade pill. These pestles are carved with blue luan and fire phoenix inscriptions. When in danger, you can activate the inscriptions to summon the blue luan and fire phoenix phantoms to help you fight against the enemy. 8th grade venerable weapons. Even the prince of the silk country, Xiaogua, you've never seen anything like this in your life. Luxurious weapons, right? There's also the Zifu Xuanzhen Dan. It came from the great Zhou royal family in the East Continent, and it's in the hands of an emperor-level alchemist. After taking it, it can increase the vitality of a venerable-level powerhouse, and it has the effect of allowing a venerable-level powerhouse to break through the realm. Although it's only 30%, it's already a priceless treasure. LV Songliang shouted loudly. His voice was loud and clear, and it spread throughout the arena. He couldn't wait to let everyone know. He looked greedily at the demon-subduing pestles and the Zifu Xuanzhen Dan, licking his lips crazily. He really couldn't bear to bet with them. Chapter 969. 8th Level Revered Weapon. And 8th Grade Pills. The stakes are too expensive. Many martial artists gathered around, and without exception, their hungry eyes were filled with greed for the stakes in LV Songliang's hands. Although the Zifu Xuanzhen pill only had a 30% chance of promoting a revered martial artist to the next level, it was still a rare and precious pill. Everyone knew that the prizes for the champion, runner-up, and third place of the competition were only revered weapons. However, Qin Hao did not reach the finals, and he did not even pass the finals, but he had the chance to win such a precious item. He was really lucky, and it made people envious. Qin Hao disdained the envy of the surrounding martial artists. To be honest, the Qingluan demon subduing pestle that Zhou Wudao gave LV Songliang was indeed not bad in terms of inscription. Its grade was too low, only middle grade, and it could not enter Qin Hao's eyes. As for the Zifu Xuanzhen pill, sorry, don't play with it in front of Dendi. Because it was not worthy. If Qin Hao stepped into the revered level, he could refine the Saint Venerable pill that was similar to the Saint Soul pill at any time. It would increase the promotion rate by 100%, and there would be no pain and no sequelae. The whole process was easy and pleasant, and the taste was very sweet. Therefore, Qin Hao had a completely contemptuous attitude towards LV Songliang's wager. What a good treasure! At this time, Xiaogua's eyes were burning, and he stared at the mighty pestle in LV Songliang's hand without blinking. From his expression, it could be seen that he liked it very much. The Sacred War armor and Sacred War Divine sword that Qin Hao gave him back then could not keep up with Xiaogua's realm. He lacked a suitable weapon. Moreover, due to his special physique, Xiaogua's heavenly saint divine power was even more difficult to find a suitable weapon. He was very envious of Yi Shuihan, who had the 50-meter-long saber that Yi Longyuan gave him. However, Xiaogua did not. You like it? Noticing Xiaogua's emotional fluctuations, Qin Hao transmitted his voice to the other party in surprise. He did not care about it, but the Melon brother liked it. Xiaogua stuttered. He wanted to say yes, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. He knew that since the other party dared to take out such a good treasure, he must have a trump card that would guarantee victory. He was just waiting for Qin Hao to take the bait. However, he really liked the Qing Luan demon subduing pestle and couldn't bear to miss this opportunity. Just tell me if you like her. As long as you tell me, I'll help you. Since you really like it, I'll definitely help you. Qin Hao patted Syogwa's shoulder heavily. Big brother, I'm so touched. Syogwa's eyes were misty, and he was about to cry. Hey, all of you are dawdling, grumbling, and putting your arms around each other's shoulders. All of you look like villains colluding with each other. Are you going to compete or not? If you don't have the guts, then please scram as far away as possible when you see me, LV Songliang. Don't come to Daliao to make a fool of yourself. Oh, everyone, come and have a look. Look at the group of cowards in the top 30 of the Imperial Martial List. They don't dare to bet with me, LV Songliang. Bah! LV Songliang spat in front of Yi Shuihan. Damn it! Yi Shuihan was furious. A piece of trash dared to spit in front of him, the crown prince. He even publicly humiliated him in front of everyone. In my opinion, Yi Shuihan's group isn't as strong as they think. Isn't that so? They are ranked 15th and 16th, but they don't even dare to accept the bet between the 35th and 36th ranked in the same year and month. There's a lot of exaggeration in the ranking. Although the person who made the bet is a guy named Su Hao, and I heard that this person is now ranked 25th, he actually sneak attacked the top expert in the southern region. That's such a despicable method. The martial artists in the northern region were in a heated discussion. Most of them were those who had lost their rings to Qin Hao. They took this opportunity to mock him. This is too much. Yi Wuhan and Xiao Jiu were so angry that they clenched their fists. Mr. Su! Yi Shuihan shouted at Qin Hao. His meaning was obvious. Brother, you must stand out in this battle. Otherwise, the people of Beijiang would really think that we are cowards. All right, I'll accept this bet. Qin Hao agreed without hesitation. Originally, he didn't care about the demon-subduing pestle and the Xuanjin pill. Since Melon Brother likes it, he would help him get it. If he didn't accept it, his brothers would be ridiculed by everyone. Qin Hao would definitely not allow this. At this moment, he sighed in his heart. He had been so busy that he had neglected to forge weapons for his brothers. If he forged weapons himself, they would definitely be better than the demon-subduing pestle. However, there was too little time. Moreover, the materials used to forge the venerable weapon were not easy to collect. Well, he would reluctantly take Zhou Wudao's demon-subduing pestle first. Anyway, this guy had delivered himself to his doorstep. Ha ha ha! Su Hao, I look forward to your performance. LV Songliang was full of joy. His plan had succeeded. Raising his nose high, he left with his hands behind his back. Brat, we'll make you suffer a crushing defeat. The two coffin-faced men of the same year and month said in unison. Then, they followed behind LV Songliang, waiting for the moment the match began. Su Hao, you shouldn't have agreed to them. Suddenly, a deep voice came from the crowd. Accompanied by the sound of squeaking, Gongshu Jian drove a 4-meter-tall mech and came to Qin Hao. He sighed. So, it's Gongshu Jian. Why did Brother Jian say that? Qin Hao was puzzled. As a friend, I advise you to quickly catch up and decisively cancel the bet. Otherwise, you will be in big trouble. Gongshu Jian didn't explain the reason. He just warned Qin Hao not to compete and then drove his mech away. Since Gongshu Jian himself came from the southern region, he knew a thing or two about the background of the two men. Whether Qin Hao won or lost in the end, there wouldn't be a good result. However, he didn't dare to say too much. He was afraid of being retaliated. You want me to cancel the bet? Qin Hao was startled. His eyes flashed and he said firmly, absolutely not. If he didn't even dare to accept the challenge from Zhou Wudao's henchmen, how could he enter the finals and meet Xiao Han? Chapter 970. Ironback Demonic Lizard. It was a level 9 peak demonic beast and was known as the Earth Dragon. It was also known as the Lesser Sacred Beast. It was about 1 5 meters tall and 3 meters long. A row of serrated spikes extended from its neck to its back and extended all the way to its tail. Its 4 short and thick claws were full of explosive power. It let out a low and hoarse roar. The roar spread out of the cage and reverberated in the North Division, shaking the hearts of many martial artists. After all, the martial artists present were all from the Sky Origin sect and had seen the power of the ironback demonic lizard. It had left an indelible impression in their hearts and left a lingering fear. I don't need to explain too much. I believe that all of you have received the signal a day or two before the start of the competition. You will be fighting the ironback demonic lizard today, a manager of the North Division said. The 6,000 to 7,000 contestants in the North Division stood in an orderly manner in complete silence. The way to advance is very simple. As long as any of you can withstand the ironback demonic lizard's attack for 10 breaths, you will be able to enter the finals of the 4 divisions. Another manager continued. The martial artists below clenched their fists nervously and excitedly. It was as expected. There is only one rule. When fighting the ironback demonic lizard, no weapons are allowed. Moreover, we will suppress your cultivation to that of a level 8 Sky Origin sect. A manager with a handlebar mustache stepped forward. As he spoke, he looked around the 6,000 to 7,000 contestants with a smile and finally fixed his gaze on Qin Hao. This manager with a handlebar mustache was the middle-aged venerable in charge of the 9th platform. What? We are not allowed to use weapons? This time, many martial artists panicked. Suppressing one's cultivation to fight the ironback demonic lizard was already very dangerous. Furthermore, they were not allowed to use personal weapons. This was not the rule set 2 days ago. Why is there a sudden change? LV Songliang stood out and shouted loudly, extremely dissatisfied. Without using weapons, even he was not confident that he could last for 10 breaths. He did not want to lose the right to compete. It is Emperor Zhao's idea to change the rules at the last minute. Do I need to report to you in advance? The manager with a handlebar mustache glanced over coldly. So sorry. LV Songliang hurriedly apologized. He felt a chill run down his spine after being stared at. Big brother, the difficulty of fighting the demonic lizard without using weapons has increased again. Xiaogua secretly transmitted his voice. Brothers, I believe all of you are fine with this, right? Qin Hao didn't want the people around him to be disqualified. No problem. Yi Shuihan, Yi Wuhan, and Little Nine replied at the same time. Even if they didn't use weapons, they were confident that they could last for 10 breaths of time. Since you all understand, let the competition begin. All you need to do is hold on for 10 breaths. There's no need for you to kill the demonic lizard. In order to ensure your personal safety, when you enter the semifinals, the gold and diamond tokens you wear have a chain connection with the barrier. You only need to crush the gold. The diamond token would immediately teleport him out of the barrier. However, if you crush it within 10 breaths of time, you will lose the right to continue participating in the competition. An elderly manager waved his hand and swept out an eggshell-like barrier. The barrier encircled the cage containing the demonic ironback lizard. At that moment there was a cracking sound. After the cage collapsed, the demonic ironback lizard immediately regained its freedom. It let out an even more ferocious roar. Its eyes flickered with blood-red light as it looked at the martialists outside. It anxiously paced around the barrier, and even used its claws to tear at the barrier. It wasn't difficult to see that this was a demonic ironback lizard that had been starving for a long time. Once a contestant was thrown into the barrier, it would begin its most frenzied hunt. Not to mention 10 breaths of time, it would definitely kill the contestant in one strike. What's so difficult about this? It's merely a level 9 demonic beast. I killed one back then, and I can do it again today. I'll go first. A bold martialist couldn't hold back and made a move. This person's aura wasn't ordinary. He was a level 7 Yuan monarch. He directly leaped into the barrier. However, the moment he jumped into the barrier, the scarlet flames on his body immediately faded to blue. Blue essence chi symbolized Yuan Zhong. Roar. At that moment, the demonic ironback lizard saw that someone had taken the initiative to throw his life away. Its 4 limbs crawled on the ground and its body suddenly sprung up like a python, leaving behind afterimages. Its speed was unimaginably fast as it bit the waist of the martialist who had entered the barrier. The martialist was directly bitten into 2. That martialist didn't even have the chance to crush his gold diamond token. A level 7 Yuan monarch was buried in the mouth of this beast. Hiss! The spectators sucked in a breath of cold air. 1 breath, no, he didn't even last for half a breath. Just now, this person had said that he had once killed a demonic ironback lizard. It was most likely that he had killed a corpse. I forfeit. I forfeit too. I forfeit. Suppress your cultivation level below a level 8 Yuan zone. Also, you are not allowed to use weapons. How can you challenge a quasi-sacred beast? You are completely throwing your life away. I forfeit. Swoosh. After 1 person tried, 2,000 martialists quickly removed their gold diamond tokens and announced their withdrawal from the competition. At that moment, LV Songliang, who was in the crowd, was covered in cold sweat. He looked at the demonic ironback lizard that was still gnawing on the corpse of a level 7 Yuan monarch. The fear in his eyes intensified. Those who forfeit, according to your ranking on the Emperor Martial Roll, go to the Ministry of Rights to receive the prize of this competition. No matter what, Dahlia welcomes all of you. Let's play again next time. The manager with the handlebar mustache smiled. It was completely within his expectations that more than 2,000 contestants would be scared off after 1 battle. At that moment, he stared at Qin Hao's position playfully. He was looking forward to Qin Hao's performance. Blind man, let's see how you are going to fight with me this time. When it's your turn, I will increase the difficulty. The manager with the handlebar mustache sneered. If Qin Hao dared to fight, he would secretly do something. Let me do it. Squeak, squeak. A mechanical sound was heard. Gongshu Jian drove his mecha to the edge of the boundary and was about to step in. Wait! At that moment, a manager came forward to stop him. Contestant, please come down from your mecha's cockpit. A mecha is also considered a weapon. This, Gongshu Jian was in a difficult position. If you don't agree, I will take it as you forfeit. The manager said firmly. Okay, I will take off my mecha. Gongshu Jian gritted his teeth and turned off his mecha. He walked out of the cockpit with his arms bare, revealing his enviable muscles. Then, he stepped into the boundary with trembling legs. He is actually an ordinary person. Qin Hao was very surprised when he detected that there was no vital energy fluctuation around Gongshu Jian's body. He had originally thought that Gongshu Jian, who was relying on his awesome mecha, would have an amazing cultivation level. Perhaps he would become even stronger after taking off his mecha. Chapter 971. Gongshu Jian's courage was truly admirable. When Gongshu Jian stepped into the boundary, the ironback demon lizard had just finished eating the first challenger and immediately pounced. In the blink of an eye, Gongshu Jian rolled on the ground awkwardly, dodging the devil lizard's claw. Although he dodged, his right shoulder was still scratched by the lizard's claws, leaving 3 bloody wounds. It was so painful that Gongshu Jian's lips trembled slightly. But between the pouncing and dodging, 2 breaths had passed. Good! The martial artists outside the field cheered. Gongshu Jian did not even use Yuan Qi, completely relying on his body's instincts to dodge. However, only Qin Hao knew that it was not that Gongshu Jian did not use Yuan Qi, but that he was not a martial artist at all. Such nimble skills should have been trained from operating mechas. Roar! The ironback demon lizard's attack did not hit, and it roared angrily. Its attack became more ferocious as it leaped toward Gong Shujian's head. However, Gong Shujian still dodged. After the second round, 3 breaths had passed. So far, Gong Shujian had held on for 5 breaths. But his face was pale, and blood kept flowing from his right shoulder. He was desperately gasping for breath. It was obvious that he had used up almost all of his strength in these 2 moves. Even he himself did not know how he was going to continue. I can't admit defeat. Gong Shujian clenched his teeth and encouraged himself. There was only one belief in his heart, which was to restore the glory of the Mecha clan. Roar! The ironback demon lizard launched its third attack. This time, there was a faint orange light flickering on its body. It actually used the power of a monster beast. Shwa! An unbelievably fast afterimage flashed out. The ironback demon lizard's claws had just left the ground, and it was already in front of Gong Shujian. Suddenly, it caused the martial artists outside the field to scream. Gong Shujian obviously could not avoid it. Danger! Quickly crush the golden diamond token, idiot! Someone shouted frantically. Gong Shujian's eyes were firm as he stood in place. Not only did he not dodge, but he also opened his arms, puffed out his chest, and took the initiative to let the demon lizard bite him. In fact, he was very clear that he could not avoid it this time. Since he could not avoid it, he might as well throw caution to the wind. Just as the demon lizard was getting closer and closer, its stinky mouth was about to bite Gong Shujian's face. Gong Shujian suddenly roared loudly. His hands were like a pair of pincers, quickly reaching out and grabbing the ironback devil lizard's neck. No matter how much the demonic ironback lizard struggled, it couldn't get any closer. At this moment, Gong Shujian's muscles had swelled to the extreme. Blue veins popped out on his chest and arms. He looked like he was struggling. However, this stalemate didn't last for more than a few seconds, as the demonic ironback lizard's thick tail swept over. Purring! Gong Shujian was sent flying, crashing into the barrier of the barrier. Then, he rolled on the ground, coughing up blood. Moreover, the iron-backed devil lizard's tail had sawtooth spikes, and it had taken away a fist-sized piece of flesh from Gong Shujian's waist. He was already heavily injured, and was unable to continue fighting. Fortunately, at this time, 10 breaths had passed. Gong Shujian did not hesitate to crush his golden diamond command medallion. Whoosh! With a flash of light, the heavily injured Gong Shujian disappeared into thin air. The next second, he rolled under the feet of the martial artists covered in blood. At this moment, he immediately fainted. Congratulations, Gong Shujian. You have successfully passed and advanced to the finals. A manager nodded with relief. It was really not easy to win. Between the words, he threw a purple gold command medallion to the unconscious Gong Shujian, symbolizing that the other party had the identity to enter the finals. Great Elder, order people to escort Brother Jian to the Good People Tavern and take good care of him. Also, carry his mecha. Qin Hao ordered. Gong Shujian had no friends, no relatives, only a cold mecha. He was so poor that he couldn't even afford a hot meal, let alone a place to stay. Now that he was heavily injured and in a coma, it was easy to attract evil intentions. If Qin Hao did not help him, Gong Shujian would not survive to the finals. Guards, protect Mr. Su's family along the way. Help escort Gong Shujian. Xiaogua waved his hand, summoning several furious bear army soldiers to carry away Gong Shujian's mecha. The cultivation of the Su family's people was too low. It was more appropriate to send some expert. Really not bad. Without activating Yuan Qi, he actually lasted for 10 breaths. Although it was only 10 breaths, he crushed the command medallion at the last second. However, this person smoothly advanced. Looking at Qin Hao's people carrying Gong Shujian away, the martial artist's eyes were full of envy. Next, let this president have a try. Let's see how powerful the demon lizard is. With a familiar voice, the crippled Iron Crutchley appeared. He first walked in front of Qin Hao and patted heavily on Qin Hao's shoulder with his palm, encouraging him, "Blind man, don't be afraid. We are disabled people. Our bodies are disabled, but our minds are not disabled. This president will first bring you some good news. Head, next, you mute and deaf must strive for glory." Without waiting for Qin Hao to answer, Iron Crutchley walked toward the boundary with his crutch. However, a second before entering the boundary, he suddenly turned around and threw the crutch to Qin Hao. Since Gongshu Jian was not allowed to operate the mecha, then, naturally, the crutch in his hand was also a weapon. And a revered weapon. No, it's not just a revered weapon. When the crutch was in his hand, it was exceptionally heavy. As Qin Hao activated his Yuan Qi and injected it, a layer of pale golden runes appeared on the black crutch. Obviously, it was not an ordinary object. Although he could not see the level of this object, it was obviously higher than LV Songliang's Qingluan demon subduing pestle. This made Qin Hao extremely surprised. This cripple is not simple. Qin Hao looked at Iron Crutchley's back. At this moment, he was a little suspicious. Was the other party really stupid in front of him, or was he pretending? As the owner, how could he not know the level of his crutch? Qin Hao absolutely did not believe this. However, Iron Crutchley's eyes did not even blink, and so boldly threw the treasure to Qin Hao. Really, just when Qin Hao was puzzled, Iron Crutchley opened his mouth and smiled, revealing two kind yellow teeth. His expression seemed to say, "We are both handicapped people, I trust your character." But unfortunately, Qin Hao's eyes could not see. At this time, Iron Crutchley entered the boundary. Roar. Because it did not eat Gongshu Jian as it wished, the iron-back demon lizard completely fell into a berserk state. Seeing Iron Crutchley, it immediately pounced again. "Evil creature," Iron Crutchley cursed. His hands quickly formed a seal in front of him and pushed forward with all his strength. "Get back from me!" 1. Accompanied by a loud sound. A round light curtain formed by Yuan Qi blocked in front of Iron Crutchley. But this light curtain was smashed by the head of the iron-back demon lizard. The force of the light curtain's explosion threw Iron Crutchley out, his back fiercely hit the boundary, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 972. The demon lizard did not expect that the crippled human in front of it would be harder to deal with than the brawny man. This made it even more bloodthirsty. As the dazzling light flashed from the demon lizard's 3-meter body, it gathered at its head like an electric current. The martial artists outside the field began to sweat for Tai Guili. The demon lizard is about to launch an energy attack. With the realm being suppressed, we can't block its energy attack. Everyone began to discuss. After all, once they were trapped in the boundary, their cultivation would be suppressed to the 8th level of origin ancestor. The iron-backed demon lizard had the cultivation of a quasi-sacred beast. The gap was clear at a glance. Boom! The dazzling white light was like a flood bursting out of the iron-backed demon lizard's mouth, smashing towards Tai Guili. Tai Guili's face was covered in sweat. He knew that he could not fight the demon lizard's energy head-on, otherwise he would die. His right leg suddenly bounced and with a whoosh, his body flew to the top of the boundary, avoiding the demon lizard's energy. The energy exploded on the boundary wall. Roar! The demon lizard took the chance to attack Tai Guili. Because its body was supported by energy, its speed was twice as fast. In a flash, it appeared in front of Tai Guili. "It's over. The cripple will die. Unless his physical strength is stronger than Gongshu Jian's. But look at his skinny body hanging in the air. There is no hope for him to live." The martial artists shook their heads and sighed. Gongshu Jian was lucky to pass. At this moment, Tai Guili was facing a berserk demon lizard. Its speed and strength were pushed to the extreme. Tai Guili had a crippled leg, so how could he suppress the demon lizard with brute force? The power of the source spirit, activate for me, in the crisis, Tai Guili roared and was forced to use his trump card. He was actually an origin soul martial artist. With a dazzling light flashing from his arm, a thick layer of scales with an iron luster appeared on his right arm. Many martial artists were shocked. The scales on Tai Guili's right arm were the same as the scales on the iron-backed demon lizard in the boundary. His source spirit was the arm of the demon lizard. Clang! The demon lizard bit down, but Iron Crutchley blocked it with his right arm without hesitation. The teeth that could cut a boulder collided with the demon lizard's iron arm, creating dazzling sparks. The sharp sound of friction was transmitted through the enchantment, making people feel numb. Then the man and the beast both fell to the ground. It was like a tug-of-war. Tai Guili endured the great pain and desperately tried to pull his hand out of Moses's mouth. However, the demon lizard arched its body and bit Iron Crutchley's forearm tightly, dragging him back frantically. Time slowly passed. Unknowingly, the man and the beast had been pulling at each other for a full 12 breaths of time. However, the scales on the arm of the iron crutch were not the scales of a real demon lizard. How could they compete with a real demon lizard? Moreover, his cultivation base was suppressed, and his vitality was weaker than the other parties. Along with a chila sound, there was a tearing sound. The layer of scales on Tai Guili's arm finally shattered in the demon lizard's mouth, and a layer of Tai Guili's skin was peeled off, causing him to scream in pain. At this time, he had already endured for 13 breaths. Tai Guili made a prompt decision to crush the golden diamond token and was teleported out. Congratulations, Tai Guili, you have successfully passed. A manager congratulated him and threw a purple gold token to Tai Guili. Tai Guili took it with a wry smile. He was very upset. His right arm was badly bitten. The moment he was pulled out of the demon lizard's mouth, his entire shoulder was dislocated. At this moment, he was in great pain and walked to Qin Hao. Blind man, you must be careful. Be careful, the beast in the boundary is very fierce. If you really can't, you'd better give up. After that, he took the initiative to take his crutch from Qin Hao's hand, wrapped his right arm 3 times with clothes, and limped out of the field. At the end, he suddenly turned back and shouted in the direction of Qin Hao, "Thank you for taking care of my crutch." Qin Hao was speechless. The other party was really a strange person. This person's cultivation is not lower than Zhou Wuning's. If you encounter him in the field, you must be extra careful. Qin Hao secretly transmitted his voice to Yi Shuihan and Xiaogua. Although Tai Guili's demon lizard's iron arm was nothing to be afraid of, the key was his crutch, which was of a high grade. It was not a simple venerable weapon. It might be an illusory weapon with 2 forms, like Qin Hao's great void cauldron, which could transform into a sword. Of course, this was only Qin Hao's guess. Although he did not know the real situation, Tai Guili had a lot of trump cards. When he fought with the demon lizard, he did not use his full strength. He was indeed a strong opponent. No way with his character? Xiaogua pointed at the back of Tai Guili with a look of disbelief. Not only was he limping, but he also seemed to be mentally unstable. Listening to Qin Hao is the right choice. At this time, Chen Wanqin stared at Xiaogua in a particularly dignified manner. After all, there were not many people who could be valued by Qin Hao. Those who were lucky enough to be valued by him were usually not ordinary people. Hee, how is it? Su Hao, it's your turn, right? Along with LV Songliang's playful laughter, he walked in front of Qin Hao and kept urging him. At this time, many martial artists entered the barrier and fought with the demon lizard. Although the first guy was torn into pieces due to his lack of strength, Gongshu Jian and Tai Guili made a good start, giving the contestants a glimmer of hope. They entered with a fluke mentality. Of course, most of them became food for the demon lizard. However, there were still a few who passed and successfully obtained the token for the finals. During this period, dozens of demon lizards were replaced. Once they were full, their desire to fight would be greatly reduced. In order to maintain fairness, it was necessary to replace the demon lizard. At this time, almost all the contestants in the field had finished their matches, and the winners were less than 30. LV Songliang immediately asked Qin how to enter the arena. "Big brother, I will try that beast." Xiaogua took a step forward. "You guys better not go. Once Su Hao loses, even if you obtain the token, it will be useless. You will still have to give up the competition." Su Hao is really a jinx," LV Songliang mocked. "My big brother will not lose." Xiaogua firmly believed in this point. He ignored LV Songliang's provocation and directly jumped into the barrier. Accompanied by a fierce and violent battle, Xiaogua did not even use soul absorption and actually lasted for 18 breaths. 18 breaths was the highest record in the northern region, which immediately caused a stir. It also made Qin Hao's two opponents, the same year and the same month, reveal a surprised expression. 18 breaths, very good. Congratulations to the Prince of Silk Country, Xiaogua. You have successfully advanced. A manager smiled and threw the purple gold token into Xiaogua's hand. Ha ha, a piece of cake. Xiaogua laughed happily. He picked up the token and shook it in front of Yi Shuihan and the others. Then, he turned to LV Songliang and raised his nose, showing off. "What's there to be proud of? Watch me break his record." The southern region's martial artist named Tong Yu moved. He was the younger brother of the twin brothers. He no longer paid attention to Qin Hao. He could not wait to surpass Xiaogua and become the center of attention. Chapter 973. Indeed. LV Songliang also felt that he was worrying too much. If Tong Yu couldn't do it, there was still Tong Yu. If Qin Hao could win, the sun would rise from the west. The way he looked at Qin Hao became more and more disdainful. Zhou Wuxing guessed that Qin Hao's cultivation was around the 5th or 6th layer of the King Realm. Chopping him down from the sky was a sneak attack that caught Zhou Wuxing off guard. In a head-on fight, Zhou Wuxing believed that Qin Hao was not his match. However, Zhou Wuxing found that Tong Yu and Tong Yu's cultivation was not much weaker than Yi Shuihan's. In terms of background, even 10 Qin Haos would not be able to beat these two brothers. Thinking of this, LV Songliang secretly clenched his fists and viciously cursed, "Surnamed Su Brat, you broke my uncle's big backer, so I'll break your life and make sure none of your friends live in peace." On the other side, Tong Yu was fighting the demon lizard inside the barrier. He seemed relaxed at first, but after 5 breaths, he was no longer as relaxed as before. After 10 breaths, he was covered in sweat and his face was pale. He was in the same situation as Iron Crutchley, falling into a weak state. He did not hesitate to open his source spirit. Tong Yu's source spirit was a steel fork, and a steel fork condensed from his source spirit was not considered a personal weapon, so he did not break the rules. Relying on the steel fork, he lasted for 6 breaths of time from the demon lizard's attack. After a total of 16 breaths, he was only 2 breaths away from Xiaogua. But Tong Yu had clearly reached his limit. The demon lizard's tail swept out and hit the steel fork in his hand. The steel fork shattered and Tong Yu was suddenly wide open. The demon lizard's tail wildly swept out. Danger! Tong Yu still can't break Xiaogua's record. Even so, he lasted 16 breaths of time. This result is enough to be proud of. Most of the cultivators did not leave. They were still looking forward to the bet between Qin Hao and LV Songliang, wanting to see who would win and who would lose. With Tong Yu's Yuan Qi being exhausted and his source spirit collapsing, he had no more cards left. Everyone guessed that he would crush the golden diamond token in the next second. In reality, this was not the case. Facing the demon lizard's iron tail, although Tong Yu was slightly panicked, there was no fear in his eyes. He shouted, "Chi origin transfer!" Whoosh! Tong Yu's body suddenly exploded with a dazzling light halo. The light halo was extremely intense. At the same time, his weak aura started to rise steadily, and it was as if a strand of surging energy had been injected into him, causing the exhaustion in his entire body to be swept away. It was the same for his peers outside the arena. On the contrary, as his younger brother's aura grew stronger, his older brother's aura began to weaken. It's actually the rare Chi essence grafting technique. Sensing the anomaly, Qin Hao couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. As the name suggested, when a person's yuan qi was depleted, they could use this cultivation method to borrow the energy of others and infuse it into their own body to regain the ability to fight again. However, Chi essence grafting was extremely difficult to cultivate. It required both parties to have the same physique, the same attributes, and a tacit understanding that had to be cultivated since childhood. It could be said that this cultivation technique was tailor-made for twins. Only twin brothers or sisters had the innate conditions to cultivate Chi essence grafting technique. However, the number of twins was extremely small. Out of 1,000 pairs, only one could successfully cultivate it. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to cultivate Chi essence grafting technique. The success rate was only 1 in 1,000. Today, the two brothers, Tong Yu and Tong Yu, had really opened everyone's eyes. Damn, there's such a magical thing. It's equivalent to two people fighting the demon lizard. It's simply against the rules. Some martial artists expressed their dissatisfaction. Chi origin transfer is not against the rules, a manager said solemnly. As Tong Yu was not within the barrier, the Tong Yu inside the barrier borrowed his older brother's energy and was still fighting the demon lizard alone. At this moment, even the manager couldn't help but praise the two brothers. They were truly monstrous geniuses. Following this, when the Tong Yu inside the barrier obtained Tong Yu's energy, his entire aura soared. He valiantly punched away the demon lizard's tail and held on for another 6 breaths of time. As the Tong Yu outside the barrier began to pale, large beads of sweat rolled down his cheeks. His legs trembled. It was obvious that the speed of Chi essence supply could not keep up with his younger brother's consumption. Only then did Tong Yu pinch the golden diamond token and teleport out of the barrier. From start to finish, he had held on for a total of 22 breaths of time, breaking Tsyogwa's record on the spot. Ha ha, a mere 18 breaths, how can you compare to me? With his head held high and his chest puffed out, Tong Yu walked past Tsyogwa. He spat on the ground in disgust and walked in front of his older brother. Brother, thank you. You and I are blood brothers, why are you thanking me? Next time when I'm having fun with a woman, you have to remember to send more Chi essence to maintain my firmness. Ah! Tong Yu laughed loudly. His words immediately aroused the envy of a group of martial artists. Combining the strength of the two, this Chi essence grafting technique could actually increase a person's firmness. It was really a good thing. Chapter 974. I haven't absorbed the soul into my body, but I've already lasted for 18 breaths. If I absorb the soul into my body, I can at least last for 30 breaths. No, I have to compete again. Tsyogwa couldn't stand LV Songliang's arrogant face. I didn't even use my full strength, what are you so proud of? In the next second, he entered the barrier again. However, he was immediately blocked by 2 managers. What a joke, do you think this is a game? Qin Hao stood in the same spot silently, analyzing the grafting technique of the same year and month. Intuition expert, my ability to control grafting in the same year is above his younger brother. If I entered the barrier in the same year, I would definitely last longer than my younger brother. Therefore, Qin Hao was thinking about how long he needed to last in the hands of the demon lizard. Because I haven't appeared in the same year. Hey, I'm asking you a question, did you hear me? Are you deaf? Oh, I know. You're not scared, are you? If you are, just kill yourself, at least you can leave a complete corpse. LV Songyang crossed his arms and sneered, as if Qin Hao would definitely lose. He looked like, what a clown. Yi Shuihan swung his sleeves and jumped into the barrier. As a member of the Grand Alliance, how could he be looked down upon and humiliated by a piece of trash? After entering the barrier, Yi Shuihan directly summoned the water god. The silver armor covered his entire body, and a sacred aura surged out. Yi Shuihan's body looked even more well-proportioned and vigorous, causing many girls to drool and stare crazily. Flashing peach blossoms. Yi Shuihan's battle lasted for 30 breaths. Due to the internal suppression of the barrier, Yi Shuihan's vitality couldn't be stronger than the ironback demon lizard. Therefore, after 34 breaths, Yi Shuihan's origin spirit dissipated, and he left the barrier in a sorry state. Even so, the 34 breaths he created deeply shocked everyone. Yi Shuihan is indeed the #1 expert in the northern region. 34 breaths, no one can break this record. Young Master Han, I can't stop admiring you. Do you still need servants at home? Scram. In the face of everyone's praise, Yi Shuihan lifted his leg and kicked away a fool who was hugging his leg. He then raised his head provocatively at LV Songyang. Creak. LV Songyang subconsciously clenched his fists together, nervousness flashing across his face. Yi Shuihan's potential was astonishing and terrifying. After all, this person was a character that even Zhou Wuning could not help but praise. However, haha, amazing. You're really domineering. 34 breaths of time, and you're proud of your achievements. But so what? I'm not competing with you, so why are you showing off to me? Once Su Hao lost, Yi Shuihan would have to give up the competition and create a terrifying record of 34 breaths. What's the use? What a waste of effort. LV Songyang spread out his hands and smiled. It was Big Brother Zhou who had the foresight to specifically pick a fight with Yi Shuihan, who had the weakest cultivation among them. If his opponent was Yi Shuihan, LV Songyang really had no confidence in beating him. Big Brother Zhou was really smart. Sigh, if Qin Hao lost, it would implicate Prince Tu-Si and Yi Shuihan to give up the competition. Prince Tu-Si and Yi Shuihan, don't forget Chen Wanqin, Yi Wuhan, and Hao Zhixing are all here. This is simply too sad. Su Hao is so timid. Just one look and you can tell that he's a coward. He's just a burden to others. Some people felt that it was unfair for Yi Shuihan and the others. Among them, Chen Wanqin's admirers gritted their teeth in hatred. They couldn't help but have the urge to tear Qin Hao into pieces. Yi Shuihan's female fans stared at Qin Hao in disgust. Qin Hao was a blind man, and this time, they felt even more disgusted. However, at this time, Qin Hao silently walked towards the barrier. Big Brother Su, you can do it. Qin ***, Su Hao, you can do it. Idle, don't feel burdened. Show off your elegance. Hao Zhixing is cheering for you. Following Qin Hao's appearance, Xiaogua and the others cheered for him. They almost shouted out loud. There are a total of 9 levels in the vitality grafting technique. Judging from the fluctuation of vitality from the battle with the demon lizard in the same month, the opponent has cultivated to the 6th level. He can absorb 60% of the vitality of one of the twins in the same year and hold on for 22 breaths. Even if the brother's ability is strong, at most, the 8th level is the limit. In other words, there's a possibility of breaking Shuihan's record in the same year, but it won't exceed 40 breaths. Qin Hao walked while analyzing. He silently nodded. I can hold on for 50 breaths. Before the finals, he didn't want to reveal too many trump cards. Those trump cards were reserved to deal with Murong Zijuan, Qi Yuan, and Zhou Wudao. The same year and month were not worthy. Wait. Seeing that Qin Hao was about to step into the boundary, The manager with the handlebar mustache unexpectedly walked over and blocked Qin Hao with his arm. The demon lizard inside has fought too many battles. It's too tired and needs to rest. I'll change it for you. It was normal to change the demon lizard for the contestants. However, Qin Hao frowned. Although my eyes are blind, my spiritual force is not in disorder. If he remembered correctly, the demon lizard inside had only fought with Guadi, Tong Yu, and Shuaihan. It was full of energy and its physical strength was at its peak. There was no need to change it at all. But why did the manager want to change it? Not only Qin Hao was puzzled, but the other managers of the northern region also asked. Xiao Ba, there's no need to change it, right? The demon lizard inside has only fought 3 battles. Chapter 975. Big Brother, the demon lizard inside is strange. Its scales are faintly glowing with a golden light. Xiaogua took a few steps forward, sticking close to Qin Hao's side, reminding him of what he saw. No problem, Qin Hao whispered, letting Xiaogua rest assured. Even if the other party didn't say anything, he could feel that the new demon lizard inside had more than twice the vitality of its peers. It should be a mutated demon lizard. Someone wanted to trick him. Qin Hao guessed it. Even so, he didn't have the slightest fear as he strode in. Su Hao has hit the jackpot. I don't know who is behind this, but a mutated demon lizard was thrown in front of him. But it's just what I want. LV Songliang stared at the barrier without blinking. He could see that the demon lizard that tested Qin Hao was extremely extraordinary. Unknowingly, it had helped him a great deal, giving him more confidence to defeat Qin Hao. LV Songliang was overjoyed. He secretly smiled gratefully at the mustached manager. However, the mustached manager didn't even look at LV Songliang. His gaze was fixed on Qin Hao inside the barrier. At this time, as Qin Hao entered, the mutated demon lizard raised its head and roared 3 times. 2 feet of saliva dripped from the corner of its mouth, wetting the ground beneath its feet. It was very excited. Then, its beast body suddenly rushed out, turning into a pale golden electric light. It set off a strong wind and instantly attacked Qin Hao. It opened its mouth, wanting to swallow him into its stomach. The entire process was as quick as a clap of thunder. In terms of speed, it was incomparable to other tests. A human's demon lizard was many times faster. This demon lizard is so strong. Its speed is too terrifying. The martial artists outside the field exclaimed. They shrank their necks, not daring to continue watching. No one had the confidence to escape the bite of the mutated demon lizard. Even the martial artists who passed the test didn't have the confidence. However, although the demon lizard was fast, Qin Hao was even faster. Water Wind Step. With a light chant, Qin Hao blew out like a breeze. Because it was too fast, it left behind an afterimage. The mutated fiend lizard swallowed the afterimage, and Qin Hao's body was immediately cut in half by the beast's mouth. Before the audience outside the arena could scream, they saw Qin Hao's body split into 2 and disappear into thin air. In the next second, Qin Hao appeared behind the demon lizard with a calm expression on his face. This was where the demon lizard had stood before it launched its attack. How is that possible? The mustached manager's eyes widened in shock. The rest of the managers craned their neck. They were so shocked that they could not utter a single word. Their faces were filled with disbelief. What astonishing speed! What an expert! The moment Qin Hao made his move, it immediately drew the exclamations of many martial artists. LV Songliang and the 2 brothers of the same year and month were completely lost in thought. It seemed that Qin Hao was not as weak as they thought. Ingenious movement technique, as calm as water and as swift as wind. Not bad. In the crowd of the northern competition zone, A mysterious person covered in a huge black robe nodded approvingly at Qin Hao, who had avoided the attack of the mutated fiend lizard. From the tone of his voice, it seemed that he was no stranger to Qin Hao. In fact, he seemed to be very interested in him. But if you think that the fiend lizard I chose is so easy to deal with, you are gravely mistaken. The black-robed man revealed a mysterious smile under his huge hood. As soon as he finished speaking, the mutated fiend lizard in the barrier immediately went berserk. Its forelegs kept shaking the ground. It was extremely dissatisfied that it had not hit Qin Hao with its attack. It did not turn around, nor did it look back. Its huge tail swept out like an iron whip at Qin Hao's waist, leaving a layer of faint golden lightning along the way. Water Wind Step. Qin Hao circulated his yuan qi and stood up straight. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the demon lizard's huge tail brushed past Qin Hao's shoes and struck the barrier beside him, causing the barrier to tremble. One attacked and one defended. After 2 rounds, 4 breaths of time had passed. It seemed easy, but every martial artist outside could feel the danger within the barrier. They all watched with trepidation. LV Songliang's complexion was ugly. Sweat dripped down from his head. The mutated fiend lizard was much stronger than an ordinary fiend lizard. Iron Crutchley and Gongshu Jian had been injured in one move by an ordinary fiend lizard. However, Qin Hao was unscathed after 2 attacks from the mutated fiend lizard. He even had a leisurely look on his face. This caused LV Songliang to begin to worry. It's just 4 breaths of time. That's far from my record of 22 breaths of time. What are you worried about? At this time, Tong Yu coldly snorted in dissatisfaction. This cold snort woke LV Songliang up. He nodded and let out a sigh of relief. That's right. It's just 4 breaths of time. Once trapped in the barrier, one's realm will be suppressed. Every move will consume a martial artist's strength and yuan qi. Once again, it will not be easy. Clenching his teeth and comforting himself, LV Songliang gradually let go of his worries. But in fact, Qin Hao did not show any signs of exhaustion. Not to mention 2 moves, even after 4, 6, or even 8 moves, he was still as leisurely as before. During this period, no matter how wild and violent the mutated fiend lizard was, or how fierce its attacks were, it did not have a chance to touch Qin Hao. It was completely toyed with by the water wind step. After 8 moves, Qin Hao had already lasted 21 breaths of time in the barrier. He was only 1 breath away from Tong Yu's record. Chapter 976. If he was hit, he would definitely turn into a bloody pulp. Even a fool would know to dodge at this time. However, Qin Hao could not dodge this time. Don't listen to them, big brother, dodge! Xiaogua shouted with all his might, directly calling Qin Hao as big brother. He did not care so much anymore. Yi Shuihan and the others also did the same, calling out Alliance Master and Boss non-stop, extremely anxious. Qin Hao's footsteps seemed to be rooted to the ground, not moving at all. He stretched out his palm, following the direction of the crowd's voices, and smiled at Xiao Guo and the others. His smile was very bright. Bang! Along with a heavy rumbling sound, the barrier in front of everyone started to distort. The warriors outside seemed to feel a strong wind blowing in their faces, and their hair fluttered wildly. The warriors who were slightly closer to the barrier immediately left the ground, and their bodies were sent flying diagonally by the force coming from inside the barrier. It could be seen how terrifying the impact of the mutated demon lizard was. Ha ha ha, Su Hao, you idiot, you're finished, ha ha ha, LV Songliang pointed at the barrier and laughed. As he laughed, his face suddenly stiffened, and the blood vessels in his pupils expanded and covered his entire eyeballs. His legs involuntarily trembled crazily. How is this possible? Tong Yu lost his composure and exclaimed. Inside the barrier, the golden halo on the mutated demon lizard's body was no longer pale gold, but had become extremely strong. 4 turbulent forces emerged from the soles of its feet. It was like a wild bull that was holding back all its strength, trying to push forward, trying to smash Qin Hao. He would be smashed into a bloody pulp. In front of the demon lizard, Qin Hao stretched out a hand and pressed it against the demon lizard's nose. No matter how it struggled, no matter how its claws dug 4 deep pits under its body, it could not move an inch. At this moment, its nose was pushed to the side by Qin Hao's palm, and a large amount of blood flowed down its face. Qin Hao, however, was as steady as Mount Tai. What? He only used one hand. He blocked the demon lizard's full charge with one hand. Oh God, Su Hao is a monster, right? A series of incredulous screams exploded in the northern competition zone, causing waves of commotion. How shocking was this scene! This also caused Xiaogua and the others, who were filled with worry, to shake their heads and laugh. It seemed that they had worried for nothing. As for LV Songliang and Tong Yu, their expressions were as ugly as they could be. By now, Qin Hao had managed to hold on for 22 breaths. By the time his palm blocked the mutated demon lizard's attack, he had already lasted for 23 breaths and 24 breaths. Retreat! Qin Hao bellowed, and a blue wave of light surged out from his palm. After the blue wave of light exploded, the demonic lizard suffered a heavy blow. Its 4-meter-long body slid backward uncontrollably, leaving 4 deep claw marks on the ground. Finally, there was a rumbling sound. With a loud bang, it crashed into the barrier and fell to the ground. Whoosh! The martial artists outside the arena were shocked once again. The 10 managers of the Northern Division stood up from their chairs. That was a mutant devil lizard. Not only had Qin Hao blocked its charge, but he had also easily sent the mutant devil lizard flying with a single palm strike. What kind of terrifying physical strength was this? How tyrannical was his palm strike? At this moment, even the managers started to wonder if Qin Hao was a demonic beast that had transformed into a human and was deliberately causing trouble. As for Tong Yu, who had set the record for 22 breaths, his mouth was wide open. His chin was trembling violently, and a strange gurgling sound came from his throat. However, he couldn't utter a single sound. He could only stare in shock at the impressive figure within the barrier. Graceful bearing. It's no wonder that you could slay so many Yuan venerate powerhouses single-handedly. Even Fourth Brother's right-hand men, Shao Qianshi and Hu Jiao, died at your hands. What a calm temperament. What a terrifying physical strength. Your grasp of battle opportunities is just right. Qin Hao, oh Qin Hao. You are indeed the genius that Han has been worried about for the past 5 years. A gentle breeze blew past and lifted a corner of the black-robed man's hood, revealing half of his face. This half of his face was incomparably firm and dignified. If any of the important officials of Daliao saw this, they would probably immediately kneel down and shout, "Long live the Emperor!" He was Shao Han's father, one of the 3 great Yuan emperors of the Northern Territory, the supreme ruler of Daliao, Emperor Shao, Shao Yi. However, you are still not strong enough, because the mutant devil lizard I chose is far stronger than this. Then, Shao Yi smiled meaningfully. He noticed that his hood had been blown open by the wind and hurriedly pulled it down. Actually, the manager with the handlebar mustache wasn't deliberately making things difficult for Qin Hao this time. Instead, Shao Yi had come personally and decided to personally test Qin Hao. Ever since Qin Hao hacked Zhou Wuning down from the sky, the sword aura that was released at that moment was too shocking. It was mixed with the aura of a high-end Heaven Stage sword aura and attracted Shao Yi's attention. Shao Yi immediately recognized Qin Hao through layers of analysis and analysis in a very short period of time. Therefore, he didn't pursue the death of the Minister of State. Instead, he naturally raised Qin Hao's ranking on the Emperor Marshal roll. All of this was for Shao Han. However, it didn't mean that Qin Hao could get Xiao Yi's approval.